What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Harambe Heroes podcast. We have a guest tonight. We're going to be going over the second batch of the list from the Slambo GT here in San Antonio, Texas. We had Dan Norris on with us last night, and tonight we're going to have Matt Robisch from Austin. Matt, want to introduce yourself?
Good evening. I'm Matt Robisch. I'm one of the guys who plays down here in Austin. Played a bunch of tournaments. They make a bunch of noise about winning some championship or something last year. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I got a trophy there, too. It's a spoon-ish shaped trophy. I'm not going to tell you where I placed. But that's cool. We got Evan on with us, too. Evan will be on. What's up? You haven't talked in a while, Evan. What have you been working on, hobby-wise?
Sorry, my dog's barking in the background, so I'll wait until he's done with that real quick. So, go ahead.
That's cool. Okay, well, I mean, this is a lot of stuff to go through, so we can go ahead and dive in. So if you have access, Matt, to the second page on BCP, that's where we're going to start with Jeremiah Gavlak. So,
Gloomspite Gitz.
Yeah, Gloomspite Gitz. What do you think, Evan? You're a Gitz player.
It's not a real Gitz list, in my opinion. Anytime you say you're running an army and you got Kragnos in it, it's not really a list that I consider, that faction. It's just Kragnos plus whatever.
Yeah, but I think, Trolls with 3d6 charge, Trolls with... Does he have a teleport? I don't see it, no. No teleport there, so he's just going to be going off of 3d6 charges.
Yeah, he's trying to put the Fight Last spell from the looks of it, but it's going to be a little difficult getting that into combat. So, I mean, good defensive-wise, probably if you sit around the moon, it might work out a little bit, but I think the list is built around him just trying to charge you turn one if you're silly enough to put your stuff on the line.
And this is one of the Hangover Heroes guys that Dan knows very well, and I think a lot of us are getting to know them. Like they're here to have fun. They come here to party. They don't really care. So I like to see how to do. I think with Kragnos and Trolls, you know how Trolls hit. They hit pretty well when they can get there. So this will help them get there. So you got it pulled up now, Matt.
Nope, still fighting with BCP.
Yeah, I had to also. Yeah, as usual, the Harambe Heroes podcast is 100% ready to go at 8:30. This is kind of our thing, being half-assed and late to our own show. But I do appreciate both of the people in here watching now. Thank you guys for joining us. And
yeah, sorry about that. I do have the second list pulled up now. If we're moving on to the Nurgle.
Yeah.
We got let's see who was it? Jeremy Davis, Austin Weird Knobs.
Yeah, do you know him, Matt?
So I believe so not to follow the trend of Marco not really knowing anyone.
Yeah,
I've met him in passing a couple times. He doesn't play at Wonko's every Thursday night like half of the guys that I know, so I met him a few times. I want to say he plays Skaven mostly, so I'm surprised to hear Nurgle.
Yeah, Nurgle with Befouling Host. Let's see, Beast of Nurgle, Afflictions. Okay, so I see the kind of thought process here. Slime up, so he's going to get some. He's going to get some trees on the board. He's going to start summoning points, and just start summoning. I imagine his first summon will be something like the Sloppity Bilepiper, and then you'll be tied in with Beast of Nurgle that you can't get out of, and it's fun. It'll be fun. It's got two big Blight Lord boxes, or Blight Lords, 2 units of Blight Lords, so it has some speed on his side. Beasts of Nurgle have really good War Scrolls. I'm a big fan of that War Scroll. They're surprisingly harder to kill than you think. You think, okay, it's 8 wounds, I'm going to chop it down, and then next thing you know, you're stuck in with it, and you can't pile in. And
That's a recurring theme about Nurgle, though, is that they're always that 5-up ward, the regeneration, the summoning. It's the army is designed very much to be a grind down slog. The big difference about Beasts of Nurgle is they're actually fast. So with retreat and charge and abilities to cover more ground than it looks like they will, and impact hits, they have a surprising amount of damage that is outside the combat phase. Add in the disease tokens, and they have a surprising ability to cover ground. So I think Nurgle in general was largely overlooked when the book, or undervalued, I think, when the book dropped, and it's kind of proven since then that is a much larger contender than it was originally given credit for.
You see your Manfred target right off the bat? Lord of Afflictions with Rancid Visitations. We got to get that guy out of here. Like, Manfred and Radica are going to gang up on him.
Yeah, Plague Raiders and Hunters is pretty good too.
Yeah, it looks really solid. I think this is going to be a problem if you don't know how to pick it apart. It'll just mess with you. That Great Unclean one's going to be a handful trying to get it off the board. So, and then he's got Slimebucks in there, who is probably one of the coolest models in that whole range. When painted well, a buddy of mine, Jeff, has one painted really well. I like the model.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Going on to
Jeremy.
Another one, Jeremy Stroh. I'm sure you know who this is.
So Jeremy Stroh is, I believe, the second game of Age of Sigmar I ever played was against Jeremy and his Beastclaw Raiders.
Well, he's bringing them back out. What's your Tyrant Icebreaker? This is a cool list.
Lately, he's been playing more of the Gutbusters half of the army. Every once in a while, we get a Stonehorn here and there or something like that.
I'm looking at...
I like the Frost Sabers. Like a lot, those are usually undervalued in a lot of those matchups.
Well, I'm looking for where the meat is in the army. I don't see it. I guess
he's got an Incarnate.
He has an Incarnate, so I have not played against this list yet. My guess was going to be a block of 8 Iron Guts, because that's usually what I see. But if he's got Incarnate, I have not seen this list yet.
He's got a Stonehorn and an Incarnate.
Why am I just terrible at seeing the stone? Where's the Stonehorn?
It's like part of. I don't know why it's listed like this, but it shows under the Icebrow Hunter. It says bonding to Incarnate of Gur Frostlord on Stonehorn 430. But it looks like it's equipped to the Icebrow Hunter.
Wow, I couldn't see where that was. That's 830 points in that Stonehorn and that Incarnate.
He's probably doing for the reroll charges, obviously. Just have them both go.
Yeah, but Man-Eaters are cool. They got 3 Man-Eaters with running charge. You got 40 Noblars.
That's a weird.
If you're going to run... Yeah, 4 Lead Belchers. I mean, it's all over the place. I mean, I've played Ogres. I don't know where it's going. I think it has the potential to do well because, that Stonehorn can get in there. Icebrow Hunters are really good with these Frost Sabers on being able to play board control and mess with you. So, being there's a Stonehorn on the board, you're going to play a little cagey to begin with. And then, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like there's enough beef here. It feels like we're missing a Stonehorn in this list.
So, Jeremy has described himself as our, competent casual. So, he's here. One of the joys of Slambo is that you will get a big list of, big range of lists, and people who are there for different reasons. It's the end of the season, so you're going to get people who are right on the cusp of making the cut for Masters, going all in and trying to pull out all the stops and make the cut. You're going to get a lot of people who are going to need someone else to drive them home, and you've got people who are there just looking to play 5 games, and Jeremy is very much in the last category of he's going to go out there, play 5 games, have a good time, and make the best of whatever his list puts him in a situation for. It's that's been basically a recurring theme, is that as long as it's a fun game, and as long as it doesn't feel like he made a drastic mistake that cost him the game, if it's dice cost him the game, he's fine with that. If it's he made a mistake, then he wants to learn from that, make sure that he can, and that's a great attitude to go in a game with.
Absolutely.
I love playing games against Jeremy.
Yeah.
I mean, when you get to that higher tier and those upper tables, it's kind of the end game, right? Like, you don't want a game to be caught. You don't want to lose a game because of a poor decision. If dice take a game away from you, then dice take a game away from you. I can live with that. I just don't. I'm in that same boat. I don't want to make a poor choice and lose a game on it.
Yeah, I agree.
And also, to Jeremy's credit, he's someone who will, at the end of a game, say, okay, what should I have done different? And actually, takes the time to ask his opponent, how could I have done, was there something you saw that I could have done better? And take that extra step of analysis. And it's great to see someone do that, especially if they're, approaching the whole thing, like I said, as a competent casual player, where he's not out there to take first place in the tournament. He wants to go, he wants to have a good time, but there's still learning going on, and that's a great attitude to have.
Yeah. Absolutely. Always room for more improvement. That's nice.
And we got another one coming up like that with that same mentality, Mr. Jimmy Sides out of the Sons of Slambo. I tell you, you draw Jimmy, you're not going to have more fun in a game. He's hilarious. You'll be laughing. He's one of the first players I played in Age of Sigmar. I played my Khorne at my first tournament. It was Hammerfest back in 2019. I think it was like round 2 or something. We had a really fun game. I think both of us flipped over to the other table like halfway through the game and realized we were playing the mission totally wrong, and just were like, whatever, we'll keep playing it that way because we did it totally wrong.
Nice. Yeah, his list is I think what people were running when Kragnos got updated a few months ago.
Kragnos double gatebreaker.
Yeah, I mean that double gatebreaker is gonna be. I mean that stuff's gonna be strong. He's just gotta be careful, and also I don't think he has it listed where they're the prime targets, but
we got to get that on there. But they are still prime targets.
Yeah, 2 points each. So that's gonna be a little. He's gonna be a little careful with that. But it looks like it's just one of those lists where it's like I'm just gonna charge the 3d6 and get in there as soon as possible, and then Life Swarm to kind of back him up if need be.
Yeah, it's a bulldozer, man.
Yeah, I'm really surprised with the Flaming Weapon Arcane Tome side, but I think that's been something that I've seen a few times. So
yeah, I think Flaming Weapon is just thrown on there. I think more common that you'll see they'll just cast Mystic Shield. So I think, and you got to put a lot into a Gatebreaker these days to kill one with Mystic Shield and Finest Hour and all that defense. Like they're still a DPS check. Like I had to put a ton into one today to kill one. But
yeah, makes sense.
That'll be fun. Jimmy will be a blast to play against, and this looks to me like somebody who's coming to have fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
And once again, you've got the Kragnos effect, where in addition to what you've brought for the rest of the list, it's Sons of Behemat, and Kragnos fills the role of basically Gatebreaker number 3. So basically saying this is the Kragnos minigame plus these 2 other pieces, which in this case are just as big as Kragnos.
Right. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I mean, I'm glad to see the big mix of lists that are coming here. I did see like a heavy sling. I'm with Deepkin. What do you think about that? I felt like they would have a strong presence once that book was released because of the anti-shooting stuff, but I didn't know it would be this hard, this fast. Like, we have a lot of INET Deepkin players coming. Like, I think it was like 11. I think it was like one less than the Stormcast.
Yeah, I was actually surprised to see that as well. Historically, back in 2nd edition, the number of Daughter of Cain players in the U.S., especially Texas, versus the ratio of INET Deepkin players in Europe were almost flipped completely, where Doc was very common in Texas and extremely rare in the rest of the world, where Deepkin was a very dominant gatekeeper, but almost no one in Texas played it. So seeing Deepkin suddenly surge ahead where there's all these lists coming up this quickly really did surprise me, just because of the history of how many people played it here.
Well, one thing to note too is we have a lot of players coming from out of state, where probably 2 years ago, when that was much more common, there wasn't as many people coming from all over the country, and sometimes out of country.
Yeah, we're gonna have to defend Texas. We got people coming all the way in from Canada, and like, we're gonna have to, politely buy them a beer and show them the door when we're done dusting our feet off on them.
Thanks for stopping by. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope you got yourself a good plate of barbecue on your way out of here. So the next one coming up is Jody Stubblefield. Oh, he's hilarious also, man. What's he doing here? Hallowed Knights? Man, I really wanted to get into Stormcast when it dropped, and then I just used that book to hold up a table. Now it's just so much in there. But Gardas, Knight Sephiroth, Judicator.
That's a lot of Liberators.
A lot of Liberators.
Wow. Yeah, that is
a lot of
sit there and
Stormkeep though, so libs are really good in Stormkeep. They get down to like a 2+ save, right? And then they give everything around them a bonus to save or something. And they count as extra models on the objectives in their territory for a while. And they get up to like 3 models they count as towards the end.
They count as 3 models all the time, but only in, I think, objectives that are in your territory. From turn 3 on, they start counting as 3 models everywhere. I think they have a 4+ with a +1 with the shield. I don't think they actually have a printed 3 up, but they can easily get themselves down to an effective 2 up. Gardas is going to give them a 5 up reward. Yeah. So it's going to be a lot to chew through, and it's going to be a moderately heavily armored lot to chew through.
Yeah.
Good list. Vanguard Raptors, so there's some punch to it too. It's not just a DPS chip with no teeth. It's a screen and redundancy in screens with a artillery piece behind it. So if you can snipe out the howitzer that's firing at you from across the table, then it's just a matter of grinding down Liberators whose damage is present. And if you can't, then you're never going to get there.
Yeah, I see that it actually has a kind of like a dual purpose because, like you said, you can try to focus down the Vanguard Raptors, but a lot of armies that can do that can't effectively chip damage the Liberators enough to actually make it count, or they don't have the model count themselves to actually take objectives from those Liberators.
Yeah, and he's got a lot of cool little things in there. Neve, Black Talon, the Knight Judicator is a problem, especially for lists like what I'm going to be playing. I have to be very cognizant of where Gryphounds are, because they'll just keep me on my way in, climbing out of a gravesite, getting shot in the head. Like, zombies not really going to enjoy that.
The other advantage that you get out of playing Stormkeep is that you deal mortal wounds to things when they charge you.
Oh, yeah.
So free mortal wounds on top of Liberator shooting, on top of counting as a lot of models, does mean that the list is there's a little bit more teeth there than it may look like on the surface. But I still think the biggest challenge that this is going to face is because it's playing out of a Stormkeep, because it's all Liberators with a handful of Aetherwing screens. What I'm not seeing is a real fast-moving piece to rush across the battlefield and contest enemy objectives. It seems like it's going to try to hold the mid-board, and I think the biggest concern that I would have with a list like that is what happens when you go second. It sounds great because you're able to double fire. His holy command is to double fire the Raptors, right?
I don't see it on here, but I may just be missing it. It could either be, I'm expecting with 6, that's the plan, to double fire them.
Makes sense.
But with that many libs, you may take the one where you put a unit back. So it could be either or. But I would expect to be shot twice by Law Strikes.
And normally that's exactly what this list wants to do, is say, I'm going to double tap the long strikes and then hope for the double after you've moved into range so that I can do it in my hero phase. But the problem I would see is that against a wall of zombies, and I know there's a few of them out there. I want to say there's at least one list with 120 zombies in it. High value shooting from the Vanguard Raptors into zombies is just going to look like a giant waste, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yep.
So that's my concern with a list like this, is what happens when the other guy is just as good at taking territory as you and gets there first.
Yep.
You don't have the punching power. Okay, cool. We got next.
Well, good luck, Jody. I like it. Joel Janice, is that right? Am I pronouncing that right? Robisch, do you know him? He is a weird knob. I know that you guys have added so many people in the last year or so that it's hard to keep up. You guys are like the fastest growing club in the world right now.
Yeah, I'm bad with last names. Is this a Nurgle list?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, literally played him yesterday or Thursday, 2 days ago.
Want to tell us about it? And,
yeah, tell me
how to do
about it.
Sure. So Joel and his neighbor Ryan kind of joined the community mid-COVID-ish, I want to say. And kind of while everyone was in lockdown, they were offering to host games in their garage in order to at least keep the community going. So it's been great to have them. And like I said, I played against exactly this list yesterday, and Joel took the win. So this is a threat, guys.
Oof.
Yeah. Well, Blight Lords and Blight Kings just rip and tear through the things that we bring to the table. Like, I mean, I know you got more Blood Knights and that kind of thing, but man, my list, this is going to rip and tear through it. Like, I'm going to have to pick my combats very strategically.
So you've probably seen something similar from James West with his Blight King list. There's no Blotkin here, but what you are looking at is there's still Festus. I believe James was running the guy with the shooting attack. Can't remember.
Bloab, I think.
Bloab, thank you. So we've still got a big centerpiece there. It's not as big as the Glotkin, but instead we have the Kronspine. So he's not lacking for big hitting power. He has the ability
Blight Lords with a +1.
Mm-hmm. He has the ability to deep strike those Blight King, the Puscoil Blight Lords, the big flies, and the command trait Overpowering Stench is, I think there was a brief window where that was one of the overlooked gems in the Nurgle book, and it didn't get worse, it got realized.
Yeah, now, I mean, that's the one where you can't do Inspiring Presence and
any command abilities.
Any command abilities in the bubble, huh?
Within 7, cannot receive any commands. Wholly within 7, cannot issue commands. So just takes commands off the table, which is huge.
We live and die with those. Like, zombies are exactly as bad as everyone who only reads War Scrolls thinks they are if they can't get any command abilities. Like,
yes, and that's how that zombie unit went away. After Battle Shock, I had one zombie survive. He took the turn and was like, "Broken rank sounds good." I'm like, "Yeah, I imagine it does."
Let me just take that off the board for you.
Yeah, we'll just save you some time.
Cool.
You can that model. I think I managed to like rally one of them back or something like that. I remember not having much of a zombie force to be like, yeah, no, this is just dead. But yeah,
I don't really have an answer for this. Like, my list, you build a list for all comers, but for things like this, I don't have a real good answer. Maybe try to snipe out that, but it's a Lord of Afflictions. It's not super easy to kill. It's not like, and more than likely, it's not going to be in a position where I can just go in with Manfred and sneak it, or Radikar in there. It's like it'll be a fun challenge.
And I believe he has a smaller support hero that's there to help heal it as well. So it's exactly what you'd expect from a Nurgle list. It's hard to move. Once it locks into combat, it's going to do steady damage. There's a good mix of high Ren from the Incarnate, volume damage from the Blight Kings, and mortal wounds from just disease tokens, and it's just random Nurgle stuff. It's got the Blight Lords the Puscoil Blight Lords to fix the mobility issues that Nurgle tends to have. The Incarnate's fast enough, so it's not a slow walk in and slowly push across the board kind of army. He can actually pick and choose his engagements. And if I remember correctly, that is a 1-drop battle regiment as well, so he will dictate turn order.
Yep, I see it. Battle regiment. Everything's in it.
Let's go ahead and move on. We got a lot of these lists to get to, but good luck to you, Joel. So
yeah,
John Early with Flesh Eater Courts.
This is a mercenary. He doesn't have a club name there.
Yeah. Let Dan know if you need to change that, by the way. I don't know if he belongs to anyone.
Prize sorcery. I'm just quickly going through, making sure they have everything there that we need to see, so that
Fort Kicker. Let's see.
2 Terrorgeist and Fort Kicker. Like, this dude is trying to play through monsters, and man, it's hit a lot of damage when it goes off.
Definitely an all in, all charge type of.
Yeah, it looks like he'll have enough ghouls to give him the screens that he needs if he. He went hunters and warlords, so he's going to be
objective takers.
At least 3, 4, 5, 6 drops, 7 drops probably. Oh, I see it down at the bottom. Never mind. He used War Scroll Builder. 8 drops. So he's going to have the screens to be able to keep you off of his Terrorgeist and things like that quickly. And he's got, double Terrorgeist for those long strikes that are going to have to shoot one down completely, probably with both rounds of shooting.
Doesn't show a triumph, so I don't know if he's trying to do Bloodthirsty or if he wants to do +1 to wound. So I want to add that to your list.
Yeah, Flaming Weapon on that Terrorgeist. That's funny. Blood Feast. That's awesome. On the other one, so this is just going to be monsters fighting and piling in twice and fighting again. And they're gonna. If you don't know, like, this was a minus the big drog, but this used to be a terrible list to go into. It used to just be a bane on Age of Sigmar when it first dropped. It was a handful.
Gruesome Bite hasn't gotten any weaker.
No.
Turns out that Terrorgeists, if they connect, they can still do some serious damage, and the addition of Finest Hour has helped them out a little bit. However, the challenge that Terrorgeists still face is their relative lack of durability compared to some of the things in game. Most of the monsters tend to be very points expensive for the number of wounds you get, and Flesh Eaters just feel like at this point, if they get to hit you and dictate the combats, they can do a lot of damage and they can cause a lot of problems. But if you have a lot of either shooting threats that they can't get to, or the ability to dictate combats and get to them first, that creates a significant limitation. Big Drog mitigates some of those problems by creating a heavy anvil.
That's what I thought. I'm seeing him, and I'm thinking he's just there to take your alpha. He's just there. He's a big target. You're going to alpha into him, and then you're going to get mauled by 2 Terrorgeists. It won't be pretty.
He has to be dealt with. You can't ignore Big Drog because he will hit you if you do. And he's probably going to be the one in front with the basically the Crypt Ghouls and Big Drog as the front line, and the Terrorgeists as things to pick from the flanks or counterpunch.
Yep. Yeah, it's going to be fun. That'll be a handful. Again, this is like a lot of the old school armies are coming back. Like, I like to see it. So next we got Jonathan Sleeze's Defenders, or the Dallas Defenders. I started to call them their old name, but they don't defend the Citadel anymore. So he went 5-0 with OBR in Dallas. So definitely Scions. So he's got Scions, Thunderbolt Volley. He's got his Holy Command on there. He's got double call for 8 too.
Storm Drakeguard.
Yeah, good job, Jonathan. You definitely kicked it up a notch from OBR. 4 Storm Drakeguard.
10 Judicators.
10 Judicators.
Knight Incanter.
A couple of concussors too. Those are the shooting ones, right? The concussors. So
yeah,
that's
it sounds like
platform.
The general consensus I've seen is that if you don't want to give away a pile of points from the hunt, then pick one of the other 3 Dracothian Guard. Fulminators, it turns out, were not actually the only Dracothian Guard, just probably the most efficient for damage. And if you want to save yourself some priority targets, there's an alternative out there. Just change the weapon.
Yeah.
He's
got the standard translocation. Yeah, he's got call for aid and so
Thunderbolt Volley. Yeah.
What is he going to call for aid on? Because that's when he brings back Redeemer unit, right?
So it'd have to be the Liberators. That's, I think, the only legal target in there.
That's right.
Yeah. Are Adjudicators Redeemers? They're battle line, but I don't think they're Redeemers.
I don't think they're Redeemers either, but that would be crazy if you kill 10 Adjudicators and just put 10 back on the board.
I believe you get a unit of 5, or does it have to be a legal target at all? So it's got to be the Liberators. And it sounds like that's just there wasn't a great alternative artifact for the second hero. The Knight Incanter just didn't need a Arcane Tome or something like that. So the next answer is this list is light on bodies, and especially light on bodies that can defend a back objective, especially if those Liberators go away. It's just the Adjudicators, which are a juicy target in their own right. People are going to be trying to go after them. That feels like I have a spare enhancement, and I need something to hold the back line after the Adjudicator, or if the Liberators have gotten into.
Yeah, so bring back 10 wounds kind of thing.
This is a nasty list. Like, good job, Jonathan. I am going to hope to avoid this. Like, good job, man. I mean, he played Doc a while back, but then stayed with his OBR for a little while. Got his 5-0 and hung that up. Now he's on some Stormcast. This is going to be fun. It's going to be a good list.
I see a mobile anvil in the Stormdrake Guard and a lot of threats. So yeah, that's going to be hard to deal with.
Yeah. A lot of fast-moving threats, too.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Good job, Jonathan.
Well, good luck.
We have Jordan Duncan from Season of War. Have you guys watched that podcast? Their battle reports are actually really well done. So
yeah,
it'd be cool to see. He definitely looks like he knows what he's doing, and he's been playing Deepkin for a while. So yeah, Nautilus.
Leviathan battle line with the reverberating Carapace. Ooh.
I see what you mean about people coming down from Canada and maybe skewing the number of Deepkin in our tournament.
Yeah, probably like half of them. Half of our Deepkin players.
That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got 4 Alopex. That's cool.
Yeah, like that's a lot of shooting between the Alopex and 20 Reavers and the
amount of shooting with like good rend and good damage. Like you're gonna be, I think, caught off guard a lot with how much shooting this army has. He's got the 20 Reavers, the Leviathan, and the 4 Alopexes, all with their really decent shooting attacks.
Yeah, I'm just trying to do a quick eyeball on how many wounds there are in this army.
98.
90? Okay, yeah. My experience playing against a couple games against Deepkin is that if you are susceptible to being picked apart at all, you have key priority targets that need to die first. They're very good at it.
Yep.
If you have anything that's fragile, they will smash it.
Yeah. Well, and what's nice with the Alopexes is, one, they're extremely fast-moving, and 2, they can kind of tag your stuff on the flanks, and with all their abilities and stuff, they can really, I think, tie down your army and give it enough time for the thralls to move up and with the Leviathan and chew through your lines. So if
when the thralls and the Leviathan get there, if you've been having a bad game against this, it's gonna get worse.
Yeah, like if you haven't taken care of the Alopexes by then, like it's pretty much over, because they're probably getting into turn 3, and then they're just gonna fight first, and the entire thing, and it's just pretty much done at that point.
Yeah, the one thing that I've seen as kind of the a few of us that down in Austin have talked about basically probably what is the biggest challenge that Deepkin seems to face, and the answer actually seems to be Soulblight, a fairly homogenous army that is going to just try to endure you and doesn't have a lot of shooting to be stuck by forgotten players.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of going to be, again, one of the other fairly common armies, just not only here, but in general. And I think that may be one of the bigger power checks on Deepkin. Not to say that it's an unwinnable game, but there is a prominent, there's always rock, paper, scissors in Age of Sigmar. And sometimes rock does in fact beat scissors, and occasionally scissors beat rock. So it's good to keep an eye out for that, but I think that is probably one of the challenges lists like this will face is possibly Soulblight or any of the other kind of slow grindy armies. I can see Nurgle.
Nurgle.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because it does feel like a bit of a rock paper scissors between like the three like most common armies, where I think Deepkin is a really good counter to a lot of the Stormcast lists that we're seeing with the shooting and stuff, because at turn 1 you're just shooting down, and then, I mean, you can get within that 12 inches, but you're probably not shooting into the targets that you want, and you basically just waste a whole first battle round. And with these lists, they're usually really low drops too, so they get to usually dictate turn order and decide how that's going to be played out. And then, you know, Stormcast don't really, I think they struggle a lot into Soulblight, and then Soulblight and then Soulblight will also kind of like pick it, depending on the list, is kind of in between the two. So it's going to be interesting to see how that matches. I think it just comes to the draw on that.
I played a game versus this new Lumineth. I mean, I did Deepkin, and what I learned in that one game was if you try to force the issue, you're probably going to lose. Like if you try to force the issue against them, you're going to walk into their damage and just get blown up. But yeah, this was Jordan, right? Good luck, Jordan. It'll be awesome to meet you. We've all seen your stuff. So good luck when you come here.
Next one is a Joseph Carnwright, but it looks like he dropped. So I don't know if that's if you think we should go over that list still, or if there's a mistake on that. Joseph, if you didn't mean to drop,
know him? He's a weird knob.
He's running Stormcast.
Yeah, I'm asking him right now.
Okay, we'll come back to it if he answers, but it does show that he dropped. So next up we have Joseph Pagano.
Joe Pagano from the Tough Crown. I've never met him, but people speak really highly of him as far as being an awesome dude to hang around. So it'll be cool to meet him. I know a lot of the Tough Crowd guys. This will be one that I haven't met yet, so this will be cool.
Ironjawz.
And he is running Ironjawz. You take it away, man. You know this army very well.
I mean, this list looks basically what you were seeing in the Austin GT, where as soon as the orcs came out, it was, hey, let's just run, Megabot or Maw Crushers and the Gore Gruntas, which the Gore Gruntas are just ridiculously good. Bloodtooth was just kind of all over the place. Like the Deepkin that we're seeing now, it was just Ironjawz, Bloodtooth. That was pretty much what we were seeing before the pigs got their point increase. So good rend, very fast, hits hard, and then the very good part is if you try to screen out with a lot of that chaff, they're going to get into it and they're going to smash and bash all that stuff. A good player knows how to pick apart those units. And if you're, like my stuff, I run a lot of MSU and screen out with that stuff, they're going to just rip apart half your army before you get to take a turn to swing. So, and then the rend is amazing. And yeah, it's just really, really good, hard-hitting stuff. He's got 2 War Chanters. Probably going to put the damage buff on both the Maw Crushers. And then one's got Destroyer, so that's going to be really nasty. Yeah. So, and then Fasten on top of it, and the other one's he actually went for the second mount trait, which is interesting.
Yeah, he went meaning on the other one. So
yeah, is that the bracketing? Or no, that's the Stomp one, I believe.
Yeah, and he's got Bolting Brood on it as well. So what he's trying to do there is create basically a Mortal Wound Bomb on one of them, and a traditional damage bomb on the other. The Destroyer is just, what is that, 5 damage on his weapon by the time it's swinging or something like that?
And plus the War Chanter's extra damage.
Right, that's right. Yes, it's 5, 6 with the War Chanter. So you've got one that's using traditional damage to try to deal with high volume of wounds, and one that's trying to bomb mortal wounds to get around things like save stacking. And I think that's what I see out of those two.
Yeah, I've always wanted to have the Meanin work. I mean, the problem is I think Meanin will be better if Hunters of the Heartlands disappears, because their whole part where they can charge into something, kind of clip it, do the stomp, do the d6 mortal wounds, and then do the higher damage mortal wounds, and then if they kill all that stuff, they can pile in again and do it, keep going. So that's really, really fun with that option. I just think that in a lot of those matchups that you wish that you could do it on, like OBR or something that has really, really good tankiness, they're usually in Hunters of the Heartlands, so you can't do it. So, but yeah, it's really good list. I think it's we saw a ton of this, and I think that it's still good. I mean, Justin had a very similar list and went 5-0 and came in first place at Austin. So.
Yeah, I do think that the more time that passes since a Battle Tome drops, the more familiar people get with what it can do. Sometimes that's a matter of knowing how to counterplay against it. Sometimes that just turns into a matter of knowing what to expect and when to brace that your models are going to die.
Yeah. This is a really easy list to figure out. Like, it only takes 2 games, I think, for you to realize, like, hey, I need to really screen with a lot of high wound chaff, and Nurgle and Soulblight are really, really good in that. I mean, they can smash and bash all they want into zombies, but that they're just zombies. So, and then they're gonna die. So, but cool. Well, good luck. I really like to see that. And look forward to seeing how well you do. Up next we have Joshua Eccles with Sons of Slambo.
Yeah, while you're pulling that list back, I did hear back from Joe. He did in fact drop.
Okay.
Sorry,
we won't see you there.
Yeah, so Josh looks like he's given up on he was playing Lumineth for like as long as I can remember. So it looks like he went back to his Stormcast, because that's where he played this at Slambo a couple years ago. Not necessarily this, but he played the Shootcast Super Battalion back then. But this is not that. 2 times Fulminators. This thing is like, if you have a way to kill this stuff, it's like hemorrhaging victory points. Like, this is but then again, you got to have a way to deal. He's got 3 long strikes. He's got 2 units of Fulminators and a big block of Stormcast Guard. So, yeah, let's see. Relictor, Mirror Shield, Translocate, Common, Celestial Blades. Am I just missing it? I don't see what he's taking. I guess he's going to double shoot the long strikes, maybe.
Yeah,
with 5 Vindictors, I could see with 5 Vindictors and not a lot of bodies in the list. I could see a call for aid, but almost certainly, he's only got 3 Raptors, so double fire may not be that necessary. But this is very much going down the list of priority targets and saying, so what do we got here that's going to hurt, right? You've got a mobile anvil with the Stormcast Guard. You've got 2 units of Fulminators; those hurt. You've got a unit of Raptors; those hurt. There's a lot of damage and 1 big anvil to try to keep you busy. The play against it is going to be, can I get around the big anvil and get to the juicy, squishy stuff? And the problem is going to be that is a very fast, very mobile anvil. A lot of armies will not have that option.
Yeah. I think what what I see with this list, with a lot of these type of builds, is they kind of sit far back, and because he's a 1-drop, he can make his opponent go first. And if they don't really have a way to effectively clear it with the shooting, which most armies don't, they're basically going to waste their turn, and they either sit back and give up the objectives, or they move up trying to take the objectives, and then like you said, they're going to just move up and clear so much stuff, and then it just comes down to the roll-off, and if they win the roll-off, well, then you start all over again. So it can be really
Ryan Rutherford in chat is saying that Josh usually runs the run and charge holy command, though can't remember the name of it, and need to check which one it is for the list.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a new twist.
Yeah, please make sure you change the thing to add the priority targets, though, because you have a lot of them in here.
Yeah.
It's interesting that this is a Stormkeep list. I didn't notice that at first. There's only the only Redeemers are the Vindictors, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Well, another Stormcast list down. Well, here we got another one.
Joshua Kennedy, Austin Weird Knobs, Hallowed Knights. Yep, playing Hallowed Knights. You got Gardas right there at the top because he does so much for them.
Ward save, make him out a lot tankier.
Translocate, Lord Imperatant.
Annihilators. Awesome, about time.
Oh, cool.
Have you
a lot of libs there.
Yeah.
So he's playing Scions though with a lot of libs. That's cool. So I guess you're gonna put your libs on the board holding your back objectives and then drop in your Annihilators to go to work while the libs protect your long strikes. Like, not a bad play. Like, if you don't have a way to get those Annihilators off you quick, this army will pick you up.
Is for the Scions, he can't deep strike the Raptors, right? Is that the play with that?
Scions will let you just deep strike anything. Half your unit can deep strike.
Okay.
As long as it's got the Stormcast Eternals keyword, it's good to go.
So everything's just coming down. Then the Protectors are with Gardas, I assume? Not really sure.
So the Protectors... I'm sorry, I was thinking... I can't remember the name of them. Praetors, the ones that actually have a bodyguard rule. The Protectors are Paladins, right?
I don't remember. Are they the ones that get... They're the ones that work like the Lumineth Blade Lords, where they get a number of attacks based on how many models are within 3 inches of them? Is that what the Protectors are?
I want to say that they have glaives or lances, or like very large sword weapons, if I remember correctly. They're actually fairly high damage. Their biggest problem is that their mobility isn't great. So once they land, I think they're like a 4-inch move or something like that. Annihilators have a similar concern.
3 wounds, 3 up save, 4-inch move. But they have 5 attacks each, and then looks like the Star Soul Mace just does straight up mortals. So, I mean,
I think I've seen a bunch of Protector builds that don't even bother taking the Star Soul Maces. Their goal is that they have I think those are
-2. Yeah, 3-inch range with -2 attacks. So that's pretty interesting. I honestly have never even fought them or seen them in any of my games. So, but with that,
I see Randy already. Calling out the stats. He's mentioned them a few times as a thing to look at, and I'm like, that's the Paladin unit that I've talked to him already about. And yes, I looked at the profile. The biggest problem is the movement, and that they compete against Annihilators with Grand Hammers. And if you have to choose one or the other, then usually the lean's going to be the new hotness. However, if you have a 15-point difference that you need to make between the two different units, that's a way to be 15 points cheaper and almost the same stat line.
Yeah, I mean, I think the mortal wound output is pretty good as far as dropping them down, doing all those mortals, and then you make some pretty bomb charges. So
yeah, and they're a 2+ save. Like, they're going to be a 2+ save. So
I think that the other thing is that they're not Thunderstrike, and I think you need the Thunderstrike keyword for the Lord Imperatant to drop you at 7 inches. So they're a good second drop on a turn where you're already dropping some Annihilators, because you can only drop 1 unit at 7. So you drop 1 from the Lord Imperatant, and then the second one would be the Protectors coming in as well. Now remember, with Scions, you have to have half of your units at least on the table. You can alternate, place 1 on the board, place 1 in the sky. So some of this has to deploy. And I think that the obvious stuff to put in reserve is basically everything listed under the units category, maybe the Protectors. But that means that the Liberators are there not to deep strike and seal objectives, But to be your dead drops to say, yeah, if you want to get the Liberators, sure, they're here. I need stuff in space.
Yeah.
Just to sit there and hold objectives and be bait. Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a cool list, man. I like it. I like the
7 drops.
Annihilator bombs are fun. 7 drops. I also think that Annihilator bombs benefit significantly from being a 1-drop army, because what you really want to do is tell your opponent, all of my threats are in space. Please take your first turn.
Yeah. And I mean, this is the setup too. I mean, everything he has set up is for that, but I understand that, you know, he can't.
I can also understand not wanting someone to stomp and murder an entire Annihilator.
Well, he only put the Vanguard Raptors and Hunter. Oh, yeah, he only put the Vanguard Raptors and the unit of Liberators and Hunters. That's
no, Hunters is 3 stars, so that would be the first unit of Annihilators.
Oh, okay, yeah,
and 1 unit of Libs.
One of the Annihilators is in Redemption.
The Protectors being in Hunters is awesome. Like, they're going to have a 2+ save, and then, you know, throw all out defense on them.
And there's nothing you can do about it.
Nothing. Like, that is an awesome play. Like, I'm glad to see somebody exploring more of that book than what we've seen so far. There's so much there. I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, I think Protectors are a hidden gem. That's actually great inclusion.
Cool. Well, up next we have Seraphon.
Juan Delgado from the Sons of Slambo.
Oh, this list is long.
Oh, yeah.
Holy moly.
Spend all night going down the line on this. That's pretty standard. But he's got Croak in there. That's cool. So,
yeah, nice to see
Croak, Astrolith Manor.
Engine of the Gods with Curse.
Engine of the Gods with Cloak and Curse, which is cool. Skink Priest, Heal, Hand of Glory. He's got your staples in there. Curse, Hand of Glory, and Cloak of Feathers.
Burning Head. Okay.
So Burning Head is actually really good if you have something to increase your cast range. It basically, especially with Croak, where you usually have more cast than you know what to do with. So with a Astrolith Banner Bearer, increasing the range that you can drop that by 6 inches, and a very reliable cast from Croak, who is probably going to have Sage's Staff for a +1 on top of his innate +2. And the Astrolith Banner Bearer is going to put him up to, that's put it 4 to cast, right?
Yeah.
So actually casting the fairly high cast value on a Burning Head is a joke. And it's basically D3 mortal wounds that you can drop in at a fairly good reach.
Yeah, like how often have you Croak goes through and does his comments call, and you got a very important hero sitting on 2 wounds left. Like, uh-oh. And here we go.
What's
Burning
nice?
Head comes flying across the board and finishes them off.
Yeah, I do like Burning Head, and like Slaanesh is a very common list that runs it, because you set it up, it does its mortals, and then it disappears. You don't have to worry about dispelling it on your next turn or doing anything like that. It's just gone, and your opponent can't do anything about it. So...
Yeah, it's a no upkeep endless spell. It's effectively just one more chosen spell on your list that's an at range source of mortal wounds. And if you can hit multiple things or couple it with, and that's always the big trick with Seraphon, right? Is that the Salon is also going to be casting Comet's Call for D3 mortal wounds to some units. The Realm Shape range is going to D3 mortal wounds several units. D3 mortal wounds to a unit usually means nothing. Up to 3d3 mortal wounds to a unit means all your support heroes are dead. That's big.
Yep. Yeah, and then Pterodon Riders are going to do the same thing. They're going to fly over and drop. They're going to go like way further across the board than you planned on them going, and they're going to drop mortal wounds on you. This is a mortal wound like generation machine. This is all this is. This is a mortal wound slot machine. I'm going to pull the handle, and we're going to do mortal wounds. Like
Engine of the Gods, and then you got. If you get close, and if you're foolish to get close enough to a lot of stuff, he'll curse you, and then he's just doing so much mortals on you.
Looks 20, 30, 40 skinks in the list too.
Yeah,
so
it's ridiculous. I mean, they're reducing all the damage by 1, and they're just sitting there, and it's not like they're for their points. You're just throwing away damage. So,
and I do agree with Randy in the chat. This does look like an Eli list. This looks like an Eli 2 months ago list, just with Thunder Lizards instead of Stormborn.
You do have 2 Bastiladons with solar engines. You need to list as the prime hunt.
Randall said he's bringing 20 protectors to Smash and Bash. Get ready. All right, cool. Well, I'm bringing 30 Blood Sisters, so I'll be ready.
All those skinks are in hunters too. That is disgusting.
Apparently, I'm helping run the event at Smash and Bash, so I don't have to be ready for it. Unless you pull a Ringer Randy, then I might have to be ready for it.
Yeah. Well, the cool part, I might even just take my OBR. It's an army that I've had painted for a long time that I haven't taken out. Like, for those of us at that point, I don't think Matt cannot make it at this point, not get the invite. So these next 2 tournaments, we can just play whatever we want and have a good time. So, Doc will be fun, but I don't think I'm going to take Doc there. I'll probably end up taking OBR just because I haven't played it and I enjoy the play style. But it's going to be a fun event from what I've seen. I thought I'd already bought a ticket, so I went in and bought one last night. I messaged Jeff like, "Hey, get me in there."
Glad to hear it. We'll be glad to have you.
Yeah, it'll be a fun time. Well, good luck, Juan. It's a Thunder Lizard list that I'm not looking forward to playing against. Next up is Justin Grimminger, our own in-house INF Deepkin player.
Recent INF Deepkin player.
Yeah.
Switch from Ironjawz, finally.
He and I have talked a lot about
Seraphon at Lone Star GT. I played him there game 3.
Yeah. He and I have talked a lot about this list since he's been working on it. When you at a glance, you don't see much there, but it's got some teeth, man. It's got some teeth. It's got more eels than we're seeing right now, but it gets across the board fast. It'll get in your face. It won't let you do anything turn 1 and turn 2. It's in your face, and because of the way that those kings work now, he's basically getting high tide for 2 turns. Those, everything that's getting affected by high tide is going to have a 5-up ward that turn also. So he can get in your face and do a ton of damage on turn 1 or turn 2, and then turn 3 sitting high tide. And good luck.
He doesn't care if
it's a really good list.
Yeah.
No, he's super cool with this.
Yeah, I feel like there's once again, the same as I've said for the previous INF Deepkin list, there's a lot of hammer in this list. A lot of hammer. Having less Namarti means that there are probably fewer wounds on the table, though foregoing the turtle is going to mean... I don't see a turtle in here, correct?
There is no turtle.
No turtle. Nope.
Okay, so that's going to save a lot of points. That'll get him some extra wounds.
Yeah, he's actually the same wound count as the previous list at 98.
Yeah, it's skipping the turtle and skipping the Namarti means you break about even. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And having double Achillean, like he's got the Achillean King and Volturnos.
Mm-hmm.
Those Achillean Kings are like nukes on a seahorse. They'll go in and they will chop everything down around them. It is a handful.
Yeah, and going back to what I said last time with the turtle, kind of a lot of people will put the turtle out front and be like, okay, well, you can shoot me, but you can only shoot the turtle, and it's basically a 2-up save. Good luck. In a lot of cases, I think he's either going to have the Eidolon or the Ishalen Guard out front because they got the unrendable save, and who cares if you're shooting them?
Right. It's going to depend on do you have Rend in your shooting or not. If you don't, the answer is going to be the Eidolon. Mm-hmm. And if you do, the answer is going to be the Ishalen Guard.
Yeah, and it's going to be really... You're just not going to be... With a lot of the shooting lists, I know my list is exclusively shooting, and you're just not going to be able to shoot the targets that you want to. And that one turn, and then going into turn 2 where they're running and charging... They're going to be right up in your face, and a lot of your punching power is going to be wasted on stuff you don't really want to be throwing your attacks into. So.
Yeah, and you're going to have, Steatotides on the Eidolon's going to be teleporting up where he wants and dropping your save by D3. So it's something that you think is absolutely safe gets, 3 taken off of its save, and now you're dead. Like something that you didn't think would die is dead, so... You have to be really careful with this. It's going to be all of these Deepkin lists. You're going to have to be very strategic on how you play against them. You can't walk into their damage, but you can't avoid it. Like, you've got to get some of it off the board before it all kills you.
Yeah, if it's all still here turn 3, it's too much. You can't afford to have this whole army strike in sequence, especially with, as you pointed out, the spell to reduce armor saves is just stacking it on one target is a good way to focus fire something down. And again, pointing towards what I've said Deepkin really need to do is be able to pick a thing and make it go away. They can't afford to try to hit everything at once, except turn 3, where they totally can.
Yeah, I think Zach used to talk about it because my brother plays Deepkin, and a lot of what they discussed was like that Deepkin isn't really a hammer; it's more of a scalpel, and that it picks something and it's just very precise damage. But it's very effective at doing that. So it's not going to be the dragons where they just blow everything off of the board and can get rid of a lot of this stuff. They're really meant to take out priority targets.
Well, the biggest thing about Stormcast Guard to me is just how many wounds at 3-up save with mobility that you get in that unit. Right. The fact that it also shoots some mortal wounds is nice. But if you want to compare damage numbers, there are far more efficient damage sources in Stormcast Eternals. It's just... they're ridiculously fast, and that hero phase move is dumb.
Yeah.
It's crazy. They knew they needed to increase the points on those things before they released it, and then they still did it later. So they're still great, insane. I mean, some armies just can't do anything.
But I do agree with your previous point, Evan. Yes, if in second edition, if Daughters of Cain was the hammer, then Deepkin was the scalpel.
Oh yeah.
All right, Justin, good luck. I'm sure we'll get matched up as usual.
So we got coming up next Keith Wood from the Defenders, I believe, right? Isn't that where Keith's? Yeah, Dallas Defenders, Keith Wood. And he is playing Coalesce.
Coalesce Thunder Lizard. More skinks, more skinks. He's got
Angel of the Gods without cloak. Is it to the slum?
I
Who's
don't
got it?
think. Oh, it's the Skink Star Priest. So I wonder if he's just trying to send it in and let it loose.
Oh, I don't see a Salon at all. Am I just missing it? I don't see a Salon. No Salon.
Angel of the Gods, Skink Priest, Star Priest. Stick it on with Skink Chief. No, there's no Salon.
I'll see a Salon.
Man, oh man.
What a gentleman. Keith, you are a gentleman for playing this. Man, he realized that the Salon is way too undercosted and was a nice guy. I was like, I'll just wait till they put more points on his War Scroll. I'll bring them back out when I think it's fair. What a gentleman, Keith.
Wanted to run dinosaurs.
Once again, it's Slambo. Everyone had a different goal coming here.
Yeah. Lots of skinks. This is going to be very similar to what Justin ran, but without the Salon. Very similar to what Justin had. Lots and lots of skinks. He's going to be trying to get that curse on you. Hand of Glory, they're going to reroll their ones. Just the standard, staples. Hand of Glory, curse.
I mean, I could see him maybe trying to get the +1 to cast on the Star Priest, but...
Oh, no, that's sticking on Skink Chief with Prime War Beast and Cloak of Feathers. It's going to be a problem. That thing is a man's monster. Like, that thing is... You can't... I mean, obviously it's Thunder Lizard, so you're getting the reduced damage on it. And,
yeah. I mean, it's...
Yeah.
I think that it's going to be a little interesting because you can send that thing in with the Kronspine, but I don't think any of your other stuff is really going to want to go in with it. So...
Yeah, well, you're just gonna. You know how hard it is to kill those backline heroes against Seraphon. It's so hard.
Yeah.
So the Kronspine can go in and be super aggressive and not run a risk of losing control of it. So that's a really good play. I've heard rumors of it ending up on a Salon because those guys are really hard to kill too. I want no part of Seraphon that has an incarnate attached to a Salon because I just have to deal with an incarnate. And by dealing with an incarnate with a melee army means I got to trade with an incarnate to get it off the board. I got to throw something into it and die, and then throw something else into it.
So the interesting thing about incarnates tied to Salon, though, is that the big thing that makes a Salon so annoying is that it can do its full damage from basically across the board. It just needs somebody to work as a relay, so it's out of position to be in any sort of real jeopardy. However, Kragnos can only receive command abilities from the bound hero. So that means you're never actually going to get to use that +1 attack, the giant all attack where you issue all attack and everybody gets it. Because that slot is not going to be close enough 99% of the time. He does not
want to Star Priest either. Like, it's not going to happen. But if you can get lucky and snipe, because it is, how many drops is this? I can't tell, but it's going to be a lot. No, Battle Regiment, Command Entourage. But if you have one of these one-drop shooting armies, if you have one, if you have one of these shooting armies, and you can get that Star Priest before the Incarnate gets away from his army, like, they'll have a real problem on their hands trying to take the Incarnate out while he's chopping their whole army up. So
am I right? I'm seeing an Engine of the Gods. I'm seeing a Stegodon with Skink Chief. I'm seeing a Bastillodon. I'm seeing a Stegodon as a battle line, and a Kragnos. So this is a 5-monster list. So while we joke about going easy on us with not taking the Slann, there's still a lot here, and it's still another, what is that, block of 30 skinks and then 10 more skinks. Honestly, this looks like the list that I played earlier today, but with Kragnos instead of Slann. Like, there's a lot of similarities with this and other Stegodon lists. So, ALS coach making the point that maybe this is a play for best sportsmanship. Then you don't take Stegodon. It's not in Coalesce today, sir.
No, not today. No, because that's still, like, you're going to have to put like 300 damage into this army to take it off the board. Yeah. Like, it's just...
It's hard to make a Seraphon list bad. Like, you can make it not optimal, but it's really hard to make it a bad list.
Well, yeah, it's still got all the staples. It's got Hand of Glory, it's got Curse, it's got a bunch of skinks, and those skinks with Curse, if they curse your unit, that skinks with Hand of Glory are going to they'll kill a giant in a turn, no problem. Like, just wipe it off the board. Doing
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's still firepower here. We joke about no Slann, he's going easy on us, but is he really?
Yeah.
No, he's still playing Seraphon, so.
Yeah, that's still 40 skinks and 3 Stegodons, basically. He's got a skink chief, he's got a regular Stegodon, and he's got the engine. So,
and actually, for a good point, that Carnate going wild may actually be part of the plan, as long as he stays 3 inches away on his own terms. So if the other player kills the bound character, then he doesn't just randomly start attacking, your own skin.
Yeah.
And then he gains run and charge. He gains an automatic +1 to hit that no longer requires a command point. And as many command points as Seraphon get, it is an extremely command point hungry army. So maybe that inability to issue +1 or the blanket all-out attack isn't such a bad deal. And if it happens, it's great. And if it goes wild, it's a free command point too, because now you don't have to issue it. So I actually there's some logic to that. That doesn't feel like as much of a gift as it looks.
Just gotta be careful with the high drops and the fact that his hero can be killed so easily. Like, you don't want to kill it when it's standing right in the middle of your army.
As long as he knows that, I think he built the list. He knows its drawbacks. I don't think he's going to have the Kragnos just sitting in the middle of his army. Like, at that point, he's got a Kragnos sitting in combat. Everything dies. Like, he'll end up having to kill his own Kragnos to get out of that. So I think him knowing its inherent weakness, or at least even after this conversation, Kragnos not going to be within 3 inches of anything in his army if that thing goes.
One more step to that, though. The majority of Kragnos' damage is damage 2 or 3 for the claws. It's 2 for the claws.
Right? He's doesn't even care. He doesn't care. Yeah, 1 damage. You kill 5 skinks. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it's going to be funny.
Good luck. And then up next, we have Kyle Van Zuden?
Zuden? I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm sorry we butchered it up. But he's playing Greyford.
Dallas Defender. We got some gun haulers in this list.
Oh, nice. He's going all berserkers like a man. Mm-hmm. He's stripping down to his underwear and he's charging. He doesn't care. Underwear off, Shirts off, pants off. Let's go. Battlesmith, normal Battlesmith. I believe. See Rune Sign. I don't see a Rune Smiter. Is it Rune Smiter their Deep Strike? Isn't that who helps them? Isn't that the one that lets them Deep Strike?
I mean, he's gonna walk up. He's got the gun haulers for his other stuff.
Yeah, early game pressure, drill cannon, gun haulers. That's cool. There'll be enough of a nuisance that you'll have to deal with them while you got 30 Hearthguard Berserkers walking down the table at you.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to be so tanky that he's just going to slowly move up the board, and then if you commit to the center, he's going to have the Magmadroth go and kill something, and then the gun haulers can take your back line.
And that Null City and Icon is awesome.
Ridiculously good.
Yeah, and then the Runefather on Magmadroth here with the Axe of Grimnir and Coldheart Ancient. That's the fight twice, once per game, right? Coldheart Ancient?
I thought it was the rend reduction.
Oh, but yeah, you're right. That's the one that makes him like Coalesce. It's the damage reduction one, right? He reduces melee damage in combat.
Let me see.
It's a great list. I really like the new Fireslayer stuff. The only drawback for me is it's all like 40 of the same model on the table.
Yeah.
But I like them. This is going to be a list that if you don't know how to pick it apart, if you don't know how to get these heroes off the board, like these Battlesmiths and there's Rune Suns and all this stuff that are just sitting there buffing the hell out of these Hearthguard. So, yeah, it's a good list. Good list, man. Good luck to you.
He's going to be able to add attacks with the Magmadroth, I believe. I think the Runefather can... He has an aura where he can add attacks. Might be the Rune Sun that can do that, but I know one of them has a once per game add an attack to every, like a aura. So.
Yeah.
So,
next coming up is a weird knob, Marco Hernandez.
Before I pull it up, Marco. Does it have Kragnos in it? It sure does.
Well, it's Icebone. It has to have.
I had a lot of faith in you, and then I was like, no, we got Kragnos. Sorry.
Marco, I don't know, man. I've never heard of the guy. Like, I don't know.
So,
who is Marco? He must be new on the Austin Weird Knob scene.
Sorry, Marco. We got to give you some jokes after. Do you know that guy from Austin? No. So, yeah. Marco is probably one of the more established players, I guess, in Austin. Is probably the better way to put that. Marco was playing here before I even picked up the game. And back in the previous Masters, what's it called, league, basically, during the season, he was one of the big front runners from Austin. One of the guys who talks on the Ever Chosen podcast. Honestly, if you're in Texas and you don't know who Marco is, I kind of don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. And he's a blast to be around at the events, too. Like, he's 100% not going to remember your name. Don't take it personal. Every time he's like 10-second Tom. Every time you meet him, it'll be the first time, but it'll be like he's known you for 10 years. Like, hey, who are you? Oh yeah, we've met 48 times. Okay, cool. Let's go get a beer. That's the Marco. Like, it's hilarious. He's awesome. And what is he doing here with Icebone? Evan, what in the hell is he doing here?
Realistically, I think what's happening is he's trying to use Kragnos to just move up the boar boys. I mean, you're trying to just get in. I can't remember exactly.
4 times big Status.
Well, yeah, yeah. So what he's trying to do is the army, the Icebone boar boys, especially, they're doing mortals on 6s to win. So you're really just, and it's the damage characteristic, not the I think it's the damage characteristic. Okay. Yeah, it's not. It causes a number of mortal wounds equal to the damage characteristic. So it's like how Slaanege's demon proc works. So he's really just trying to throw these things in because they move very fast. I think they move 12 base. You can Their spells, I wonder what spell. Glowy Green Tusk. So he's going to take one of the Boar Boys. He's going to give it the spell so that they're getting -2 to their rend. And then when they charge in, they're probably getting the +1 to hit and wound, I believe. So really fast, really hard hitting. And of course, they're going to be able to charge the 3d6. So they're really, I think he's going to buff one up, throw it in, buff one up, throw it in, and just kind of keep flanking and hoping that for the best. And then they're if he gets everything in, especially with the big stabbas and stuff, you have a lot. Oh, I didn't even see the 10 block of Savage Boar Boys. That's going to be his first, I think, wave of just going in there, and then you think that they're going to die really quickly because they just have a 6-up save, but he's going to wah, and everything gets a 4-up ward save for that combat phase, which is really, really tanky, especially at 138 wounds with a Kragnos. That is insanely high number of wounds. And of course, if he's on the defensive, he can just kind of sit back, and if they go into anything, he can wah, and then now you're in range for his Wargog to stare you to death, because he does have glowing tattoos, so it will be a 4-up ward save all the time.
Yep, and a 2-up when he walks.
Well, the 2-up he can do, if he was, he is a 2-up ward save in that combat phase, but not in the stare phase. And they did actually change the FAQ, if I remember correctly, because before when I ran it at the Dallas tournament, you had to like stop staring and then declare, like, you could pick a battle tactic and be like, oh, I'm going to do broken ranks or something like that, because they're all start of the hero phase. But they changed it where you can do it interrupting, so you can stare, bring it down to like 1 wound left, and then be like, hey, by the way, I'm picking broken ranks, and then continue staring at that unit. So it's
I believe it's even
with the same Wargog. You can stop.
Same Wargog. Cool. Like, you can declare it in between. You don't have to like stop what you're doing, as long as it's the start of hero phase stuff.
Right. I think that I was going to say, even if you did something like slay the warlord to slay the enemy general, because you don't have to choose the general, you could even go as far as killing it and then say, I'm going to kill the general this turn. I realize I've already done that.
Yeah,
but exactly. I'm going to. We'll gamble on it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if he saw how I did, but like when I went to when we did the Dallas one, I think I did close to 100 mortals between my 5 games with just the Wargog stairs. I mean, it was insane. So, it just really high-end damage output. And then Kragnos, I give a lot of crap to Kragnos. I see a lot of these lists where he like enhances the army itself. I just hate when over a third of your army is dedicated to one model that changes the way the army is meant to be played. So, but I think this is going to do really well. I think a lot of people. The big thing with this list is nobody has fought Bone Splitters in years. Every opponent I fought was like, I have never fought Bone Splitters, or I haven't seen them since Fantasy. So
the only war scroll worth looking at in the entire sub-faction is the Wargog Prophet.
Right.
And that's not 100% incorrect. Yeah. Kragnos is not part of that sub-faction, really. He's his own entity, which is basically, now you've got 1,000 points to your army is very much a viable item. And you've got 1,000 points of stuff with sensible rules, which, Evan, you've done a great job explaining why that's more intimidating than it looks at first blush.
Yeah, and the big stabbas are no joke, by the way. Like, you get them into something, especially now that they can charge that 3d6, they're going to kill a lot of stuff. I mean, they have really decent rend. They actually have pretty good damage, and then the big thing, too, is you kill them, and they do mortals back to you. So it's really a good trade-off for their points values. It's really just their movement that hurts this army. And the part 2 to this, I forgot to mention, is they do have tireless trackers in this army. So half of their army is moving 5 inches up at pre-game.
Which, combined with the 3d6 charge from Kragnos, means that the normally move-limited units, like, for example, Big Stabbas, are actually going to be in your face when they want to be, not necessarily turn 1. Sometimes that's I need to crack a screen and they come in next. Sometimes they are the expendable unit that gets thrown in to crack a screen.
Yeah.
Because at 200 or 320 points, if they or the Maniacs are what you need to get rid of a screen, they'll do it just fine. And like, I think you're right, the Maniacs are what goes in round 1, and then they soak the counter attack, and then turn 2 follow up with everything powered by Kragnos.
Yeah, I mean, you see that 10 you see 10 Savage Boar Boys for 290. That's 30 wounds. I mean, that is a huge amount of wound count for it. And they do have a base 6-up with a 6-up ward save that can become a 4-up. And the way that their bases are streamed out, you can screen out a lot of the opponent's armies. And then Kragnos is waiting there. And honestly, I've used the Big Stab as my shields too, my screens, because you charge them and it's like, okay, well, you maybe kill them, and then if you do kill them, they're just going to do mortals and start really ruining your army. And yeah, I mean, you're like you said, you move them up 5 inches, they move another 5 inches, and then they charge 3d6. So that in a lot of areas, if your opponent moves up at all, you're getting into them pretty easily.
Yeah, I think you pretty much hit the nail on the head here. You've got basically, you go ham with the Boar Boys, because what else would you go ham with? And then you throw in the Big Stab as basically razor wire to say, here's my bubble wrap. It's going to kill you as it goes away.
Yep. So I'm excited to see it. I think this is going to be a lot. And once again, mortal wounds on all those. You're doing a ton of attacks. I think it's going to be really fun. So good luck to you. Can't wait to see how you do.
Yeah, and for good measure, Marco is fairly consistently, I think, at this point, going into Texas GT's 4-0 in the 5th game. So he knows what he's doing. I know it's Bone Splitters. The guy knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Bone Splitters are no joke. I mean, I went 3-2 with them. So, and I went against like 2 Seraphon lists and a Lumineth player, and it was a lot of like higher end armies. So, but anyways, up next we have Marcus Miller with Soulblight.
Beercoast. You know Beercoast pretty well, Matt. You want to run us through this one?
I think between the two of us, yeah, we could spend a lot of time on a couple Soulblight lists here.
Yep.
All right, so Belladama, good choice. Manfred, good choice. Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon. I don't know anyone else would run that. Stand by for next list. Necromancer, always a good choice. Death Rattle Skeletons. Death Rattle Skeletons are a anvil. The damage on them is not great. It's present. But with Van Hells, they are, if you didn't wipe the unit, 3 out of 4 of the models you killed that combat phase are just going to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Direwolves look like more screens. Graveguard are the hammers. And then battalions after that. So what I'm seeing here is basically you've got a big unit of Graveguard as the glass hammer that's going to be swinging around. You've got Belladama for both of her spells are amazing.
Yes.
If Graveguard have +1 to hit from Manfred, +1 to wound from Manfred, or from just being Veer-coasted near a vampire, and 6s to hit are 2 hits, and 6s to wound are mortal wound in addition, with a profile that was already scary, that could potentially be attacking twice because of Van Hell's Dance Macabre, that is just anything that it touches dies. That's just what it is.
Yep, just evaporates.
The other things I'm seeing is that Manfred is classically a very tricky character. I know Brian's list was yesterday, so you've already probably gone into all of the interesting things you can do with Manfred to steal objectives, to get him out of tough spots, to choose his engagements, to assassinate support characters. Manfred's one of the most fun characters in the game to play. And one of the most challenging things to deal with as the receiving player. So even though he's locked to Legion of Night and won't benefit from the Veer-coast keywords, I don't question him being in that list for a second.
No, I would not. I don't think you... I mean, there's probably some lists out there that are better without him, but I don't see many without him in there. He's just so good. He's a problem. He presents a problem, and you start... Like I say a lot, you start throwing decision-making at your opponent, and the more decisions you force them to make, the more likely they are to make a bad. So Manfred is a problem. You're never safe from Manfred with pinions. Like, he just goes barreling across the board, and if he fails his charge, okay, he's fine. You just don't, and if you have a lot of shooting, fine, he'll find his tower. And all out defense, and he's probably going to have Mystic Shield when he goes running across. So you're not going to kill him.
And if you got damage split across phases, Armor of Templehoff is just going to keep shaving it down.
Yep. I've had one game where he died, and the only reason he died is that I wasn't thinking and went for a CP instead of Finest Houring on my opponent's, my Thunder Lizard opponent's turn, and I wasn't going to take it back because it was a practice game for the GT. So I was like, nope, I live with it because in the GT, I'm not getting that back. And then Manfred died 2 of the wound, but there were like 5 3s that I rolled in there that would have saved. So
to be fair, though, Manfred has like one of the worst lores I think ever. I think he's like terrible character.
It's all perspective. I kind of like how he operates.
He is.
I mean, if Coach is still in the channel, he's got to remind you that we wouldn't have Age of Sigmar if it weren't for Manfred. Like, I've heard that line dropped several times, and
thank you, Manfred. Really appreciate it. I hope Teclis comes back or Tyrion comes back and gives him another.
Well, my favorite character is Archaon, the Grand Marshal of the Apocalypse. There wouldn't be an apocalypse without Manfred. So.
The biggest thing I see about this list that is going to be something Marcus has to make sure he's aware of and play around is that those Graveguard are exactly as devastating as I made them out to be.
Mm-hmm.
What else in this list is? Manfred can be punchy, but he's not consistent. He's usually good at poking from the fringes. He's not a hammer. He's a scalpel. The Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon can be a hammer, but is super swingy. You're looking at...
And then even then, like, most people, if you go in with him, are going to have a way to deal with him. So you can't get overly aggressive with any of this. It's a very cagey game with Soulblight.
I was going to say, even with the Graveguard, like, in many of my matchups, where the only time I've won against these armies is I've been able to kill the Graveguard before they attack me. And that's why I think, and then just keep them off the board as long as possible, because especially them being in Hunters of the Heartland. I mean, there's a lot of tricky things, but I think if you protect them well enough and keep, if they touch something and you get even half your buffs off, they just kill whatever they touch.
And that's the cool part with Dama is she's going to take Unleash Hell away from their target too. Yep. So she's going to kill a model and put a wolf in there and be like, now you're in combat, so you can't unleash hell. So that's really cool too.
And she's hard to kill too, like really, really hard to kill.
So one of the challenges Graveguard tend to run into is that they spawn in 9 inches away from an enemy unit at the end of the turn or in the previous turn, and then they move forward 4, which puts them at 5 inches away. Any kind of redeploy is going to put the unit at, if a unit redeploys more than 1 inch, you get a 2-inch redeploy, they're now outside the 6-inch charge range, which is what Graveguard get automatically from the musician.
Mm-hmm.
If you're pinned from Lycan Curse, you are now stuck, unable to redeploy, and the Graveguard have a 100% assured charge, which, unless you have something like Bloodslick Ground, cannot be stopped.
Right.
Yep.
So that's part 1 and part 2 of the delivery system, basically, with also a buff unit.
Interesting.
Yeah, and Marco's been playing similar lists for a long time. He was playing Theft back in the day, so he knows how to handle himself with a Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon. So I expect to see good things from you, Marcus.
Also,
if that Vampire Lord can get his charges in with Sangrician, it goes from being the 6 damage or the 6 dice that really matter to being 6 plus d6, so on average 8 dice that really matter. And suddenly he's really scary. And enough dice to be consistent. Flaming Weapon's going to add on top of the claws and make that a real threat. So that is built to be the second giant hammer in this list. And it's not something that is always a giant hammer. In this list, it's a lot more dangerous than it looks.
Also, at 1945 points, he is almost certainly getting Bloodthirsty, and it's going to be that rerolling charges. So,
I have it too. I love it. I have 1945, and I'm keeping it.
Yeah.
Mainly, I wanted to keep the list that low because at some point GW is going to do something to zombies, so I needed some spare points in there somewhere.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if zombies don't stay as cheap as they are.
No.
I think that's the common theme with Soulblight and Seraphon, is their points are just really, really good for.
It's not across the board with Soulblight. I think most of it's fairly pointed, but zombies are really good, really aggressively pointed. Like skeletons are low points if you just look at the pitch battle profile, but what do skeletons do but live? That's what they do. They hold an objective and they don't go away. With Van Hels, they protect your necromancer is what they do. For me anyway. For me, I have a 20 block that protects my necromancer, and they hold a home objective on Savage Gains, and they live through a whole lot more than you plan on them living through. Zach ran 15 Hearthguard and a Magma Drop into them and killed like 4. So it was nuts. I made some really good saves, but throwing Mystic Shield on them and Van Hels, and they're just going to sit there. Especially turn 1 in Legion of Night. They're going to be tough to take off the board.
All right. Next up, you want to go ahead and take your list?
This all looks familiar. So, my general goal with this list is that what I was about to say for Marcus's list applies again here. Regarding the conversation of pointing Soulblight, I feel like it's an army that wears its strengths and its weaknesses both very proudly. The army is very aggressively pointed in terms of durability, but there's very little rend and very limited sources of more than about 1 rend in the army. And those tend to be much more exorbitantly priced. This list leans into kind of taking advantage of, yes, there's a lot of wounds here. There's a lot of armor here. There's a lot of on-demand durability here. But in exchange, my rend isn't very good. The Graveguard are kind of my only real reliable hammer, and my Zombie Dragon is kind of the sometimes he hits and sometimes he just doesn't. So going into the list itself, what I've got are 3 heroes, Vampire Lord on Zombie Dragon, Rousing Commander for command trait is the first of the cooldowns that this list is going to bring. Fragmented Keep is an aura for anything that's within any enemy models within 6 inches are -1 to wound in melee. Amethystine Pinions is the spell because sometimes you just need to be somewhere else. To be honest, 90% of the time, he casts Mystic Shield.
Yeah.
Vampire Lord on foot, 90% of the time, I kind of try to decide whether he needs Arcane Bolt or just doesn't have anything useful to cast unless there's things that need to come back from Invigorating Aura. He's there to throw a command point on stuff, and as I'm sure Brian's already expounded upon, just ramp zombies to the moon and back.
Mm-hmm. And Pinions on him is really good if you get it off. When you need it. Like, usually Manfred is getting the Pinions. For me, I'm sure it's Manfred or your Zombie Dragon for you, but actually, no, you don't. Oh, yeah, there you are. There it is. I couldn't see it. Yeah, but like that turn that you need that Vampire Lord to get somewhere, Pinions, and next thing you know, he's flying 18 inches across the board, and he's where your opponent had no idea he could get to.
I think he's base 14, so it'd actually be a 20-inch move. So, assuming he's still full health. And
I was talking about the Vampire Lord.
Oh, the Vampire Lord, yeah, where he's going just 12, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great, I need to go steal an objective. But yeah, the Zombie Dragon, Pinions on him is for when he needs to jump over the line of Blood Knights in front of him.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they move 10, he also moves 10. Doesn't matter what his war scroll says.
Your list is so scary to me because I don't have a way to effectively deal with that many Blood Knights. I don't have it. Like, I would tie you up there for a little while, but you're going to win that battle in the long haul. Like, you're going to win that slog. Like, even if I have 80 zombies into them, you're eventually going to chew through before I get enough mortals, unless I have all the buff pieces there to get a lot of attacks. But I think, being the player that you are, you're not going to let me get 80 zombies in around your Blood Knights. So it's a scary that you have, man.
I think with a Legion of Night versus Castelli game like that would end up becoming basically your capacity to dictate the engagements because of your ability to null drop and determine order. So you're going to get to choose what kind of game we play, and then whatever game we play, the actual combat numbers benefit me, but you got to choose how the matchups get made.
Yeah.
So I feel like you are in control of the game, and I am trying to just provide the questions that you're answering. And that is a recurring theme with this list. This is a lengthy list of questions to be answered. My answers are pretty much just the raw durability I have and panic buttons. I can use Rousing Commander to boost +1 wound or characteristic on the unit of Blood Knights that's in front of the zombie dragon.
Somebody makes one of those long bomb charges with Kragnos on the board. Like, okay, I didn't expect you to make a 17-inch charge, but you did. So now we'll deal with that.
Yes, and the zombie dragon's role is to always sit more than 3 inches from the front of that line of Blood Knights, less than 5.5 inches from that unit of Blood Knights. So anything that charges the Blood Knights is going to get hit with Unleash Hell and then be in Fragment to the Keep, and then the Blood Knights are +1 to their wounds characteristic. So it's really hard to go through 40 wounds with a ward save with -1 to wound, and a 3 save in Hunters of the Heartland. Possibly even with Mystic Shield if I get lucky, but again, with no bonuses to cast, we cast Mystic Shield and see what happens.
Yeah.
There's an infantry crawl with the zombies and the 2 support heroes. There's a unit of Grave Guard that are going to be where I need them to be. And there's a unit of Blood Knights that can either be part of that cavalry wedge following the zombie dragon, or they can outflank because that's what Castellite does. Gravesand Shard, Rousing Commander, and a Warlord Battalion give me 3 ways to make my list a little bit more durable when I need it to be, either through getting an extra all-out defense, or an extra rally, or just a flat +1 wound from Rousing Commander, or moving my ward save to a 5+. There's a few interesting things I like about my list. There's only 1 monster, and he's my general. So you will never get Slay the Warlord and bring it down in the same game. You can call them both, but if you've called them both, it means inherently one of them has been failed. There's 3 battle line here. One of them is 30 wounds and 3-up save. The other one's also 30 wounds and 3-up save, and the last one is 40 zombies. None of those are super easy targets. They can get chipped down to where they become easy. And the game I'm going to play is just to see if I can watch my opponent fail some battle tactics, take the middle of the board, and outlast them. If I can do some damage along the way, if someone gets real aggressive to try to punch into this list will hit them back. Yeah. So it's not something that you can just commit into hard and say, I got this, I just got to hit him first. It gets punchy if you overcommit.
And that Rousing Commander is a great bait, in my opinion, because you take one of those 30 blocks, or I'm sorry, that 30 wound count of Blood Knights and turn it into a 40 count. And it's just really, really tough to get through. I mean, there's been plenty of times where that's got, almost a gotcha moment, even though I know that that's going to happen, but you commit to something, I have plenty of damage and potential to kill it, and then it's like, oh, well, they're in Hunters of the Heartlands, they're 2-up save, they're 6 ward save, re-rolling 1s, they're, now an extra wound, and it's just ridiculous how tanky you can make them. So.
And going back to the plan of denying battle tactics, it's the kind of information that I get to see. So you're declaring broken ranks. I snap a Gravesand Shard and get ready to call Rousing Commander in the combat phase. Yep. Good luck, sir.
Yeah.
It's a lot of good counter, and then you can't tie down the Blood Knights very easily. So, winning that roll off is really, really important.
I like the way you describe it. Like, it's like, call your battle tactic, and then I'll set it up. Let's go. Like, just deliberately intended to make you
everything's a counter.
Lose victory points.
Yeah, and if you choose something else, then I can save the panic buttons for later, or look at where your tempo is going to hit me, such that I need to just push the button anyway.
Yeah. Eventually, though, you're going to end up needing to kill something for a battle tactic at some point, and so.
I think it's personally.
And the further you get into the game, the better that is, because you may not even need to pop Rousing Commander anymore. They might have gotten aggressive, and you already have that buff on 1 unit of Blood Knights. You got them already buffed up, and it's like the later you get in the game, the harder this is to pick apart and score points against. So
I think it's stuff like this too, personally, that why you're not seeing a whole lot of Ironjawz players anymore, because they really kind of work off their high rend and their smash and bash, and this army prevents a lot of that from happening. You're bracketing your opponent when they charge you, you're giving yourself bonuses and your opponent debuffs, which are enough to actually affect it, and then they're usually don't really have a good option with their Maw Crushers and stuff to take out a unit. They can't really take out a unit of Blood Knights unless they roll really well and you roll really bad. So then it's just now it's their turn, and you're going to counter really easily. So I think that a lot of stuff like Ironjawz and stuff really got kind of hurt by stuff like Blood Knights and Soulblight in general.
And this goes back to the earlier conversation we had about the rock paper scissors game. I can handle an army that is all hammer, no anvil, or all gas, no brakes, by just saying, well, it's time to pop the panic buttons, and we're going to ride out the storm, and we'll deal with what you've got left after you've swung, and I'll just counterpunch. Yep. On the other hand, Seraphon, Thunder Lizards are a problem. If you take a look at the damage profiles on my main attacks, it's Blood Knights go up to 2 damage on the charge. Graveguard are 2 damage standing. The Zombie Dragon, his claws are 2 damage. And that is a very bad number when you're fighting against Coalesce. That's a game where the plan changes from, I'm going to try to hit you and cut your damage down to the point where you can't make your battle tactics. It's going to frequently turn into, I just need to play the objectives and hope it takes you too long.
Yeah. Hope that you have enough wound count and body count to outlast them.
I'd rather be more aggressive. I'd rather try to strangle my opponent out with just coming from different flanks and slowly work through their stuff. But if that's not an option and I can't actually do effective damage, then just meat wall it up and let the grind happen. Sometimes it's what you got to do, and just hope you get your units back when they start dying.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So up next, we got Matthew.
Matthew Pettigill. He's one of our own, one of the Harambe's heroes.
He said not to talk shit about his list, so I'll let someone else talk then.
Okay. It was Vanquishers that I was thinking about earlier that are like the Stormcast version of Blade Lords, right? They get the swords. Yeah, they're pretty cool. But Matt's pretty thematic with this. He's like a big fan of the Hallowed Knights. He's read all the books. He's really like what's his name, Gardas. He's a big fan of Gardas. So he built this army thematic around that. So he and I played a practice game with it. The only real issue I see is it lacks screens. Like, a lot of its damage is coming out of those 15 Judicators, and it lacks the screens to keep them safe. In our game, I came off a board edge with 20 Graveguard and took the Judicators out on turn 1. Because he's one drop, he made me go first. So I was like, well, if I try to walk across the board, Judicators are just going to kill me.
Now or never.
So I rolled, granted, I rolled an 11 on the charge, but that's always a risk you take when you give your opponent the turn. These boards are so small now. If they roll a crazy high charge roll, you're going to have to deal with something you didn't plan on dealing with. But Judicators are Judicators. They're going to be a problem.
Those Vanquishers are pretty fast, too, by the way. Like, they are quite a... he's got translocation and stuff, but you'd be surprised how quickly they can get up in your face if you're thinking, oh, these are just Stormcast, they're slow, they don't really have good movement and stuff. And
those True Sleepers are pretty cool too, man. They were like hard to get off of an objective.
Yeah, they're like 5 wounds each, right? Isn't that the...
Yeah, it's like 5 wounds apiece. It's a lot of body. Like, for 3 models, you're sitting there with 15 wounds and a 3-up save, I think. Maybe a 4. I don't remember exactly, but it's a good list. He was playing Sylvaneth for the longest time, and now he's playing this.
Just as Sylvaneth is about to get their book, too. So.
Oh, he'll go back. This is just... I think he's out to have a good time. He was in Austin. He had a good time. He's one of our guys. He's just now getting more into the competitive scene. So I think he'll do fine with it. I think this is a solid 3-2 build, in my opinion. I think if he can, if he can dodge the really tough matchups, which is as much as people talk about going 5-0, like it's much luck going 5-0 as it is. You're avoiding your really dangerous matchups.
it's a lot of wounds for a Stormcast list. I mean, you're above 100, which is nice. In a lot of those cases, you're in like the high 80s, low 90s from some of the other ones I've seen. But like you said, it doesn't have much of the movement, and that 15 block of Skybolt bows. I mean, that's a third of your list tied up in one unit. So you gotta be real careful about that, in my opinion.
Yeah, the placement on that's got to be clutch.
I've the first half of this tournament season was me playing Marathi and the Bow Snakes, and what are adjudicators? They're Bloodstalkers.
Yep, they are.
They're just so expensive for an army that really can't afford a whole lot of extra stuff. So,
well, Bloodstalkers are about to be the same, like just the same amount.
Yeah, back to
the Bloodstalkers are almost the same price. You get a 6-up ward instead of a 4-up armor save. And if you're playing out if you're near Gardas, you've got that 5-up just like you're next to someone with devoted disciples.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very, very similar to what I'm used to in Doc, because you can just go ahead and issue the double tap command. You can only do it once per game, but Gardas is a lot cheaper than Marathi.
Yep.
Yeah, and you don't. The only issue is you don't have, like, the good thing is you always had your Marathi screen in Doc to protect those snakes. Like I'm sure you have a million times. Marathi and the Shadow Queen are just as good at being a screen as they are at going out and being, like, when we were playing Warp Lightning Vortex KO, it was like, put my army in a cluster and put my Marathis out on the corners, and now you can only shoot Marathi with most of your guns. So good luck. And now you're also in range of Marathi.
I think the interesting variation of this is going to be Kronspine showing up as the proxy for Marathi to really just make the Stormcast Eternals of Kane.
Yeah, that would be super funny.
Yeah, Randall's saying there's actually 10 more wounds because it's, for whatever reason, the list only has 5 wounds showing on that warband unit. So it's actually 15 wounds total.
So 115 wounds in a Stormcast army. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's the comment we made for that Stormcast Stormkeep earlier, that this is actually a lot of stuff to push off of objectives, and the role of the long strikes as the howitzer in the other army is replicated by the adjudicators here. Slightly shorter range, same exact role. It's just going to be a matter of can you get to the objectives and hold them. And yeah, I can easily see that list going 3-2 and hoping for better matchups.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, easily. So,
yeah,
all right.
3-2's the floor for that army.
So I'm going to try to breeze through some of these. We got Michael with Tough Crowd. He's running Magakin. Anyone want to talk about that?
Drown Man, let me...
Whoa, look at this list. What is going on here? Okay. I don't know how what you used to write out this list, but it is very strange. He's got Be'lakor, which is good. I think Be'lakor... I mean, that's a lot of points to throw up into tying something down, but I think that might be good against like stuff like some of your opponent's heavier stuff.
Is this the faction where the Blightlords get the pregame move?
Drowned Men? I don't know.
I don't remember. But if it is, like, I've played a similar list to this, they're going to run the Blightlords across the table turn 1 and try to pin you in your deployment zone, and then start doing the Nurgle things.
I assume that's the case because he's only running Blightlords. Like, that's all he's got.
Yeah.
He's got...
Well, good luck if you run into OBR. You don't want that matchup because Blightlords bounce off a Mortek Guard.
Yeah. He's got...
Anything that still rerolls saves is really good against lower end.
Yep. So, I mean, this could really give a lot of armies trouble because of its speed, but I don't think its damage output is there. That's the only thing but then again, I can't really read this list, but...
It just looks like he's a 1-drop, Be'lakor's tying down an opponent's big thing, and then he's, like, basically flanking you with nothing but Blightlords. And that's
this looks like basically it's the Nurgle Grindfest with Be'lakor added as a control unit to give him the ability and the pregame move to basically let him do the grind in his position of his choice and basically say, I'm going to hold the map. We're going to see if you can kill me, and if so, how fast.
Yeah, 125 wounds.
Okay, so James confirmed Drowned Man is. So this is the pregame move. He's going to be. I mean, like I said, I've played a very similar list to this, and yeah, he wants you in your deployment zone. He wants you stuck with. I think I saw 4-man units.
Yeah, he has
4-man units.
2 4-man units, and then a 2-man unit, a 2-man unit, and a 1-man unit.
Yeah, those are all just going to take the board. Those 1-man units and 2-man units are going to take board, and those 4-man units are going to keep you stuck in your deployment zone with Be'lakor. If they keep you stuck there for a turn or two, it's going to be real hard to catch up on points against this list.
Yeah.
So there's some play there,
especially with the amount of because they have a ton of attacks, don't they? So they're going to be dropping a lot of the disease tokens and really just racking up the hurt. So if you're one of those armies that relies on, like, especially the shooting armies and stuff, and they're tying you down in your thing, and you don't have a real way of like getting those wounds back, you're going to be in trouble, I think.
Be'lakor is also an excellent option for any army that really wants to go first and take the first turn, use Be'lakor immediately at the bottom of the first turn, and then provide that Faustian bargain to your opponent. Do you want to, even if they win the roll, do you take the double turn with your star unit still on the bench, or do you then give away the turn and not punish this guy for his turn 1 alpha strike, which is mostly just there to pin you down anyway?
Yeah.
Well, luckily for me, I wouldn't have to worry about that. But I don't have anything that is worth tying down. So, but yeah, a lot of big stuff. I know, like Lumineth would, I think, have a hard time with this list. Obviously, some of the other lists we talked about, Kragnos is going to be a huge one. You're going to see a few that, like just the mainstay army characters that you can tie down, and you're just killing off all their chaff and support. So.
Yeah, good list, Michael. I'm looking forward to seeing it. Now we got Michael Wynn with the Dallas Defenders still on. He moved on to Hagnar. I think when I played him last, he was on Keltnar.
Hanging with my snake buds. That's apparently the name of the list.
Pretty standard. Yeah, 15 Bloodsuckers, 10 Witch Elves, 10 Blood Sisters. So pretty standard.
Yep.
Barathi, Shadow Queen.
Mirror Dance, yeah.
Bloodrack Medusa, yeah, Mirror Dance.
Barathi King.
Pretty standard.
Yeah.
Except I don't see, where am I missing it? Oh, there it is. Ag Queen on Cauldron with Blessing of Cain. I was just looking for that. That's
pretty basic, I think.
She's gonna sit there with the snakes and keep with the bow snakes and keep them safe.
Just because it's basic doesn't mean.
No, it doesn't mean it's bad. Like when that avatar wakes up, he's gonna be really choppy. So they got a really good melee counterpunch for when you try to get into those snakes, which everyone, I don't know if I'm sure you have, Evan, where you've tried to kill melee snake or bow snakes and you got into them and thinking, I got enough damage, and then once through their rerollable 5-up feel no pain, you're like, I killed 2.5 snakes.
Yep.
Like,
now
I'm dead.
Getting into them is hard enough, and then killing them is a whole nother thing. Usually, the stuff you have that can get to them isn't punchy enough to get through all those wounds, and usually you're just pulling out. It's like usually like one big model, and you're just pulling out away from it, and then you rally on your turn. So
he's probably going to have those 10 Witch Elves protecting them also. So he's probably going to have 10 Witch Elves screen with the Cauldron and the snakes behind it, and then he's going to have his Blood Sisters and Marathi go out and knock things off of objectives.
I can't tell you how many times I've fought Marathi-less, and they just put Marathi Cain, like just shove her out there, and it's like you can't. I mean, you're talking, even though she's a small model, that's a whole 6 inches, 7 inches that you can't really get around her, and then you just screen out with the Witch Elves behind it, and then behind those you have the Stalkers, and it's just, it really, really makes it tough now. A whole lot of armies can actually chew through all that and make it worth it, because then then the Shadow Queen's gonna, ruin your day.
Yes. It is still fighting the same thing that I've been talking about with Dodger's Cane ever since the very start of the edition, is that with the way it's currently priced, it is playing against the turn 3 collapse. You've got 2 turns where you feel absolutely invincible, and you're losing nothing but a screen here and some wounds on Morathi, and none of what the other guy's doing seems to really matter. And then it's like magic. All at once, you lose the unit you had engaged in combat. You lose you lose both halves of Morathi, and you lose one other unit that your opponent's kind of focused on. And on turn 3, suddenly 1,200 points of your army's gone, and you go, I was sitting pretty. What happened?
Yeah, what am I supposed to do for the next 2 battle rounds?
You can just hope that you have enough points by then that the last 2 turns don't matter as much.
Well, usually the answer is not so much that you have more points than your opponent. It's that you try to get to when turn 3 happens. Your opponent has already fallen apart in the first 2 turns, and they shake your hand going, look, I've got 30 points left on the board. Or, I've got 10 wounds here and a support hero over there. We're done. I can't make the turn 3 collapse happen. It's over.
Yeah, I think Soulblight is the problem, I think, for this. Like, your list, my list, all the other Soulblight guys, it's going to be a problem for this because the Shadow Queen can't hurt you enough. Like, she is, like, I sit here sometimes and think, well, how do I deal with a Shadow Queen? Well, it doesn't matter. She's coming to me. So I'm going to have to deal with her, and I'm going to get 3 wounds through. So it'll just deal with itself.
Exactly, and that's my view on it too, is that what's the biggest problem the Shadow Queen causes? She pins down a unit because it's stuck in combat with her. I have Blood Knights, I don't care.
Yeah, everything. Yeah. I've got zombies, but they don't care either.
They're just going to retreat 3 inches and pile in where they want to go.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think, again, the rock, paper, scissors game of Age of Sigmar, I think that Daughters of Cain are going to struggle with the giant damage checks. And oddly, the giant damage checks still includes giants.
Yep.
All right. So up next, we got Milo Webb with his Stormcast Eternals.
Oh, Milo made it! I thought I heard that he was coming, and I had never heard him confirm that he'd actually made it in. That's awesome. So Milo's one of the guys that we picked up during the when you mentioned that we got a bunch of new guys showing up at the club. Yep, Milo's another one of the newer guys. He's been putting in tons and tons of games in just Thursday night games, but he hasn't been able to regularly make it to any of the local tournaments. I missed the doubles tournament. I don't know if he played in that. But we've been really looking forward to Milo stepping out and making it to a tournament. I'm glad that if you're going to do a first one, Slambo's the one to do it.
And his list is actually pretty fun. He's got Kragnos, which finally we get to see a Kragnos or Karazai in these lists. And then he's got the Dragon Guard Fulminators as well. So, and he even put Prime Target. If a new person can do it, I think we all can make sure we do that. And so
the secret tech is that Battle Mage ally in there. That's going to help. It's going to help get those Fulminators in there. Yeah, it's going to give the Fulminators the +2 to charge. Probably.
Plus, Kragnos, he has the +2 or 3 to his casting. And he's going to drop that Everblaze Comet right into your opponent. And that is going to be
good combat. We haven't seen one in a long time. Remember the like hell a comet used to be. Like it just drops in. You can't get it off the board. It keeps pounding you and keeps moving. And the comet was pretty cool back in the day.
Yeah, that
I like the list, Milo.
The comet's pretty hard to get rid of too. It's got a high casting value if I remember correctly, and then the Kragnos also has an amazing spell. I think you can reduce attacks, reduce save, and something else, like maybe rend or whatever. So I know that there's like 3 effects that you can proc. So, and then also he's pretty decent in combat. I mean, he's not as good as Karazai, but most of his attacks are very similar in terms of like if he needs to get into combat with something, he really can mess it up. And his shooting attack is also pretty dang good too. So a lot of the battle tactics where you get an extra point if you kill it with a monster, Kragnos is a pretty good source of kind of helping out with that. So
he's also an inherent horde breaker, which is not something to be overstated. And I'm sure talking to the 2 Soulblight players here, there's a lot of value in that tail whip, sir.
Yes. Yep. Don't throw zombies at Kragnos. Yes, don't do it.
So good luck.
Good luck to you, Milo, on your first one. Welcome to the Texas Masters community, sir.
you see our vests, come say hi.
Yeah, definitely. You'll see our monkeys breathing fire on the vest. Definitely come introduce stuff.
All right, we got a Night Haunt list from Nate Trentinelli.
Nate Trentinelli, the good-looking version of the Trentinelli brothers. At least that's the word on the street.
So let's see, we got Nagash with the Spirit Host combo and some Hex Wraiths. And that's it, pretty much. Spell Portal.
That's all you need, right?
Emerald Toast.
Spell Portal with Hand of Dust. And...
Yep. He's just trying to. I mean, it's a 1-drop list, so pretty good. It's really low on the wound count, so there's gonna be some like if you get like a fast, hard-hitting army, like some of these Stormcast armies are. This is really gonna struggle, I think. But and also for objective holding, like this is really gonna struggle. But the mortal wound output is actually pretty good. I think you're gonna see a lot of people underestimate the mortal wound output that this army can put out.
Yeah, and 9 Spirit Hosts, good luck. Good luck getting 9 Spirit Hosts off the board. And they're going to take the middle objective and they're going to sit there.
Yeah.
And they're going to outlast everything you throw into it, trying to get them off the board.
Yeah, because I believe Nagash can make add 1 to their ward save, so they're going to be fairly tanky, and they're doing mortals currently. They're going to get rid of that, but they're doing that, and then I think the Torment is going to follow them for... I can't remember his buff. Is it the +1 to wound or something? But the Pen and the Fell...
I think he gives them a reroll or something.
Yes, but the Pen and the Fell Wind is actually going to give them that +3 to movement. So those Hex Race and stuff starting off are going to get the 15-inch movement. And they fly. If they move over stuff, they do mortals. And, with Emerald Host, they're going to charge and do mortals as well. So pretty decent list. I think that it's going to struggle into some, and then there's going to be others where they really can't answer this list. So
yeah, I mean, if you have an answer for Nagash, you'll be fine. But if you don't, and if you rely on spellcasting, Nagash is just going to say no. Like, nope, no opinions.
I mean, you just bank on Nagash miscasting a few times, and you should be fine. So.
Yeah. I hate that he's even...
That he can miscast? Yeah, it's a little silly.
So a couple things to keep an eye out for here is that one of the scary things about this particular build is that Night Haunt has always had a lot of ways to bring back models to its units, and usually it's a number of models rather than wounds worth of models. So Nagash will amplify all of that by 1 each time it happens. So that Spirit Hosts unit is going to be either 9 models or dead, and nothing in between.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So that thing's going to take an objective, and you're not going to move them. Like you're going to have to dedicate. You're never going to think that you need to dedicate it. The amount that you dedicate is never going to be enough unless you know. Like it's not. It's going to surprise you. Like I've banged on them for hours. It seemed like. And never got them off the board.
Yeah, this list need a double turn. Like almost all the regen, I believe, happens at the start of the Night Haunt's player or during their hero phase. So if you can pull a double turn, that's going to be your window to kill up Spirit Hosts. But you have to commit to it, knowing before you know whether you have priority in the next turn, right? So it's a gamble straight up, and getting a double turn is always unfavorable odds. You're looking at ties go to the current active player, so you're only looking at like a 40% chance for this plan to even be viable, let alone the chances of then doing enough damage in the first turn to follow up and finish the job in the second turn. The one thing that you do have going for you trying that plan is that Nagash's +1 to ward saves is only during the combat phase, so shooting works just fine against them. The downside is that a lot of the shooting units in the game right now are things like long strikes that are banking heavily on their big Ren coming through big for them, which Spirit Hosts just don't care. Anything Night Haunt, half of that army doesn't care. Nagash, on the other hand, totally does.
Yeah, I see on the the Vice version, this one is going to be really tough to deal with because they're just going to put that 9 Spirit Host right on the center objective, and you just have to hope that you can put more
on the Vice. Yeah, if you play this on the Vice, you better focus on those Spirit Hosts early, or you're going to get to turn 4 and lose the game. You're not going to be able to get them off.
Well, the one counterpoint to that, though, is that it's only 9 Spirit Hosts. You figure Nagash is probably up there as well, so that'll bring you up to 14 models effectively because he's a 5-model monster. Nagash actually is pretty punchy, and his War Scroll rewrite actually made it more punchy, and the Night Haunt spell lore makes it punchier still. So he's actually going to be doing the bulk of the damage. So I think that Brian's original point is really the way you play against this list. You either kill Nagash if you have a way to do it, or you're in for an uphill battle. Full stop.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, good luck to you, and it's good to see Night Hunt. I think pre-update. So, up next we have Nathan Bates. Salty Dogs is the team name, and it's another Soulblight list.
Oh, a salty dog playing Castellan. You can go through this one, Matt. What do you think?
I'm waiting for the stream to catch up so that I can actually see the list because BCP still has not cooperated, and I'm just going off of watching the stream in the other window.
Yeah, it's like a 30-second delay or something.
So far, what I see, he's got 80 zombies in a corpse cart and 2 units of 20 direwolves. So the dude's got wounds, like lots of them. Mm-hmm. We're talking about 160 wounds. Is what I see just on this battle line.
Radikar can't he summon even more?
Radikar's going to summon another 10 dogs.
And then he's got Belladama also going to be doing her thing. So
Gorslav's going to keep his zombies there. Kritza's going to be like impossible to kill.
I fought a very similar list to this in the U.S. Open Finals, and I was playing Trolls with Gloomspite Gitz, and he literally just charged all the wolves into me turn 1, and because he went first, and it took me 4 turns to kill everything he had because it was just constantly. It's just so much wounds. They all have the ward save. I even tried to kill Belladama at first, and he's passing the wounds off. And this army is just really, really tanky with how many wounds it has. So if you don't have a way to effectively get rid of that stuff, namely for range shooting,
why Castellan? I don't see why.
What I'm about to ask is I'm looking for. Gravesand Shard. I've seen lists that look like a Virkos list and just take Gravesand Shard because it solves a problem for the army. I understand that. But it's a generic battle. You've got Arcane Tome for the artifact. You've got where's the command trait? Who's the general?
I don't see it on here.
Yeah. So the only Belladama's a unique hero. Gorslav, Kritza, Annika, those are all uniques. Radikar's unique. So it has to be the Necromancer. This has to be a typo. This has to be a Virkos list.
Yeah. Make sure
I don't understand why it's Castellan.
Yeah, make sure you get with Dan and see if you need to change it.
Dan. This is Virkos, and I imagine that Necromancer's. I don't know.
Master Magic.
Yeah, probably Master Magic.
I like Master Magic on a Necromancer. That is re-rolling to cast Van Hells. That's worth it.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, good luck on your list, and either way, try to get that fixed because before the tournament.
Yeah, if you make Castellan, that's cool, but I don't. You got Belladama there, and you really want her in Virkos. You want her to be able to re-roll her cast. So,
up next. We got Nathan Wood with he's a Sons of Slambo with Ogre Maw Tribes.
Blood Gullet. I like Blood Gullet. Let's see what he's got here.
Starting off with a Stonehorn, Firebelly and Butcher, and then Beast Riders. So he went with the Blood Gullet, but he went all in on Beast Riders and Thunder's Husk and Stonehorns and Mournfang.
Which is not a bad way. It's not a bad way to play.
Cogs for the +1 to charge?
Yep. He's wanting to get his charges in because he's wanting to use that Frost Source Night Drop of the red stuff. He wants to get 6-inch pile-ins with his other Stonehorns.
This is basically what I used to run, a very similar list with. It was just the Boulderhead. You're just putting it into the other one.
Yeah, you're 100% doing it for the nice drop of the red stuff, and I think let's see on his morning
cast, right?
blood zealot. Yes, they get the extra spells on. I don't think they can't cast another one, but they get another one on their war scroll.
Greasy Deluge and Molten Entrails, which is good. I think with how fast your army is, you're not really doing this stuff.
Well, butchers are pretty fast to fight. They're still ogres. They're pretty fast. Granted, they may not be. If you go hyper aggressive turn 1 and go for the alpha, then your stuff's not going to keep up. But turn 2, the butcher and the firebelly can get there and be relatively safe if you didn't lose a lot turn 1, and then start debuffing your guy or debuffing your opponent. And so there's some play there.
The only thing I don't, and maybe you can correct me because I just don't know how the foot ogres play very well, but I almost wish if I was doing a similar list, I would have dropped the Thunder Tusk and swapped it and taken the Firebelly out and put the Thunder Tusk as the priest. So that way you can get the prayers from that, because I just feel like that is much more worth. If you're bringing a Thunder Tusk and you're not going all in on Thunder Tusk, I feel like the Thunder Tusk, whatever his name is, the one that actually is the priest, is the way to go.
Yeah. But Billowing Ash has its play. It's a bubble of -1 to hit. So
I feel like it's very defensive, and this army is moving very fast. You're going to be outside that 18 inches of threat range, most likely.
Billowing Ash has a fairly high cast value too, doesn't it?
Yes.
It's like want to be 7 or 8, right?
What I see is them putting their. You used to take your Maw Pot and stick it midboard and then run your guys up there and play from midboard, where you can't do that with your Maw Pot anymore.
Casting value 8 with a wholly within 12 range. It just doesn't. I just don't think it fits well with it. If you had a bunch of regular foot ogres and stuff, I would say maybe it's worth it, but this just seems a little not worth it.
Yeah, you usually run that with your big block of Iron Guts going up there. You usually have him tucked in behind them, and then. But it'll be fun. It'll be cool.
Everything else looks good.
I look forward to seeing it go.
And he might be using. I said he's bringing cogs for the +1 to charge, but he might be using cogs for the butcher, because the butcher now has 2 spells to do. So maybe that's. Yeah, and you got Blood Vultures.
Switch tempos on it, right? Start with his charge boost and then flip it over second turn for the extra cast.
Yeah, because I think the butcher's probably going to sit by the pot and then make sure that he can kick it over when he needs to, and stuff like that. But it just, that's the only thing that I would have done differently with the Thunder Tusk. But I think other than that, it's a really great list that has the body count is good, and it's got the rend and the movement to kind of help it catch a lot of people off guard. So people really underestimate ogres. So all right,
they're better than you think.
Up next we got Nina Murney.
Nina Murney. Probably, I can't wait to see how well she's done with this. I've been hearing good things.
I think this is the one I heard about as far as the paint job on it, so that'll be interesting.
Yeah, the Aztec-themed Deepkin list. Having seen it in person, it lives up to the photos. It looks excellent.
Very cool.
Really awesome.
All right, so we got the
normal stuff.
Achillean King bomb, Mathland, 2 Mathlands. Oh, no. Sorry, we got one of the storm and one of the sea, and then it looks like it, for whatever reason, it put the Soul Scryer off to the side as well. So a lot of eels. So we got Ishlinguard, 2 Morsar, a 20 block of thralls. That's interesting, and that's it. So
Nina picks an army and models that she wants to paint. And she has a theme in mind when she picks them, so I don't think Nina gives one damn ounce about the game that she's playing, like how the game's. I think she wants to win, like all of us, but I think.
Oh yeah,
she's here for the hobby.
Yeah, it's definitely. It's Deepkin, right? It's not. You're not going to have a bad time playing this list, and I think once again the guard are just going to, or you have the Ishling guard just sit out there and. Tank all the stuff, and then the Morsar are probably going with the Soul Scryer, so you're going to have some deep strike potential. And then
and double Eidolon is really good too. Like the Eidolons are solid.
Yeah, I mean they're both really good damage and stuff. And like I said, you got the deep strike, and then I can't remember, is Domhain the fight twice one with the thralls? Is that?
Yeah, that Domhain is the one where if they don't have an enemy model within 3 inches of them after they fight for the first time, they can charge and fight again.
So I mean that makes sense with the 20 block. You throw all your stuff into them, and then if you charge something that you know you can get rid of, and then go and do it again, and then kind of you do that. If you can get that going turn 2, it's a great setup for turn 3.
2. That's what the King's there for. Turn 2, they're going to have high tide, so they're going to have fight first with a 5-up ward. Mm-hmm. And depending on what they're swinging into, they're going to get more attacks for more damage. So they'll probably chop up that first thing they go into. So they'll have their own version of smash and bash on that turn, and then the following turn they fight first anyway. So
I think
it's cool.
It's going to be a very hyper aggressive list, in my opinion. I don't see much like defensiveness with this.
No, it's going in. Like this list is going in.
So very cool. Well, good luck, Nina. Can't wait to see your army. Let's see. So up next we got Randall Brasher with Cities of Sigmar, Tempest Eye, and Austin Weird Knobs.
I'm almost certain this is exactly the same list that I played against at the local tournament on Saturday the previous weekend. So might have a pretty good idea how this works. It's a lot of guns. It's a lot of very accurate guns.
Ironclad and Stormguard, huh?
Yep. Why play out of your battle tome when you can cherry pick the best units from other battle tomes?
Yep.
And for some reason, we have not all gone the way of chaos and lost. Our coalitions have lost allegiance abilities. Cities of Sigmar is still very much, if it's coalition, it's Cities of Sigmar, and I can't tell the difference. So they get all the nice little keyword buffs from all the things in there.
Yeah.
The big relevant bubble is basically you've got a Hurricanum with a command trait that effectively amounts to anything that is within those 2 radii gets +1 to hit, +1 to wound. The +1 to hit is with everything. The +1 to wound, I believe, is just shooting. So the damage numbers on all of this is basically take the damage you think a unit would do, increase it by 25% for its hit accuracy and another 25% for its wound accuracy, a little bit more if it was 4s and 4s instead of 3s and 3s. So you really just ramp all the damage you're expecting out of everything in this list by about 50%, and you're closer to what you really effectively expect. The Pistoliers are enough damage to be relevant, which is all you need out of something that fast.
Well, the nice thing, too, is it helps make up for the wound count issue that a lot of these armies that we've seen, where they're running an Ironclad or they're running 4 Stormdrake Guard. This person has both, and they're still over 100 wounds, which is pretty insane.
Yeah, Randall, if I had not met you in person and knew how nice of a guy you are, I would look at your list and not think you're a very nice guy.
So it looks good. So I mean, but I think a lot of this that we've seen in terms of it's just a good match. I like how it's kind of a good match between 3 different armies. So
look forward to seeing them play it.
It's a clever way to pick the units that need to show up in order to fill different roles and fit them together. And Randy's the kind of guy who he's like he said about Milo, he's gotten the reps in himself. He's put the work in to study the different pieces of this and said, I play all 3, 2 out of 3 of these armies. Let's pick up the Cities of Sigmar guys and glue them together and see how this works.
Yep.
And it's from having heard him talk about the list, he has really been enjoying it. It seems to check the boxes for what he wants to see in an army. And having played against it, it hurts like a son of a bitch. It hurts.
I'm looking at it like, how do you even start picking this apart? Like
just
the Iron and the Dragons, you're not going to get them off the board.
It's super defensive. So I feel like if you have a hyper aggressive army, you try to catch him in a spot where he doesn't want to be in, or you just. I think shooting is going to do some pretty good work into this, but he also has a lot of shooting with really good movement. So you have to outdo
with his dragons and that ironclad. That's like, I'm not even going to try to do the math. That's like 60 wounds with a 3+ save. Like that's a solid chunk right there. That's good luck getting through it. It's like the one that you target is just going to all out defense, and I hope you have multiple activations that you can target something else.
I think once again, like probably Soulblight is going to do pretty well into it because if you swarm them with a bunch of zombies and stuff and keep your important stuff back.
So there's a bucket of Ren 1 and volume damage in that list. He'll go through zombies like nothing. The Blood Knights fared better.
I don't know.
The Blood Knights fared better than the zombies. He eventually was getting through those as well. I mean, the Hurricanum is still good. It's good mortal wounds. The dragons are mortal wounds. It's a mixed profile of volume damage and value damage, which is really what you want in Age of Sigmar at the moment, in my opinion, because you can pick and choose your targets. And if you've got a varied spread against things, you can distribute the targets where you need them to go. And like I said, Randy's got the reps. This is going to be one of the big contenders to watch out for, in my opinion.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, this is like everything that Thunder Lizard brings to the table as far as target priority and target saturation. Like it's going to be a handful. I don't want to mess with it. My poor zombies. I mean, I'll be spending more time taking them off the board than deploying them.
It hits hard, it moves fast, and it's got a mobile anvil. So sorry, Evan, let me let you move on. Sorry.
That's cool. Up next, we got Robin with a Magickin of Nurgle, Sons of Slambo. So another weird-looking list setup. A ton of Beasts of Nurgle. 2, 4, 6, 7 Nurglings, Plague Bears. Great Unclean One.
This is the same thing. This is the summoning. Yeah. This is your standard Nurgle summoning build. It's going to try to get a Sloppy Bowpiper turn 1 and then tie you down with Beast of Nurgle until it just wins the game by sitting on objectives.
Good amount of damage. Again, it's the Nurglings are interesting, but I think it's good. I mean, I think that usually the problem is with Nurgle is they have so few options for their battle line that a lot of the lists are looking very similar, and just comes down to what heroes they're running. So, but cool. Good luck to you. And up next we're going into the Ryans. We got Ryan Bounds. Sorry if I misspelled that. Austin Weird Knob said he's a Sigmar again. You want to take it from here? Have you played him yet?
Yes. I think I've actually only played against Ryan on TTS. We just had a day where neither of us were doing anything, but he had to stay home and watch kids. So we got a game in on TTS. When I mentioned Joel and his neighbor hosting games at their garages, this is the Ryan who was his neighbor who was also inviting people over and playing games during so that we could actually get games in while the stores were still closed. So Ryan's Living Cities list, it has been something that this looks like. Okay, the version I played against did not have Karazai in it, so this is a little bit different.
We finally managed to get both in a tournament, both Karazai and Rondus. So, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, he's been playing Living Cities for a while, going back and forth between basically Disciples of Tzeentch and Living Cities. So he's, again, gotten the reps in. I believe he also, I remember him being at Lone Star GT as well. So not his first GT. He's been out there. He's gotten games in, like I said. So look at the list itself. Phoenix Guard are a durable battle line. Even without reinforcement, they're still going to be at least take effort to go off the table. It's not something that you can just drop 5 Heart Renders on and be like, look, dude, I'm going to steal your objective in a turn here. It's fine. Yeah. They'll be all right.
I am surprised about the Anointed on foot. Usually you see the Anointed on Frostheart Phoenix or something like that. So
yeah, but
this has got awards everywhere. Like everywhere.
So what's I can see I can't see the battalion selections, but I don't need to. That's why you have the Anointed on foot, is so that you can take Karazai as your commander and then 2 sub-commanders and fit into a battle regiment.
Yeah, he's got battle regiment and hunters.
Oh, he has hunters. So it's not a 1-drop.
Nope, it's a 3-drop.
Okay.
So it still looks good. Usually I see that Anointed on Frostheart for the points difference is like really competitive, especially he has Arcane Tome and Flaming Weapon, which usually, the Anointed casts a spell, instantly gets a +1 save for that spell going off. So seeing Karazai and not Krondus, and then obviously the Anointed on Frostheart Phoenix, that's really interesting. I'm curious to see what his opinion is on that. But I do like the amount of mobility that this list has, and Karazai is just gonna be. You have to dedicate resources to killing it, and then those resources need to go into the Phoenix Guard too.
And don't forget 4 Fulminators on there as well. So
yeah, there's one more trick up his sleeve there too, coming off the board edge. I am very surprised to see Hunters of the Heartland actually. I had assumed that the reason that you had the Anointed on foot was specifically to fit into a 1-drop, because the rest of this list is it's a 1-drop pattern just with Hunters of the Heartland instead. So I feel like that's something specific that is a specific matchup that said, I need this to not cause a specific problem.
It looks like the Fulminators is the reason why he did it. That he put the Honored Retinue in the Hunters, and then obviously the Dracothian Guard Fulminators into Hunters. So maybe he's been roared at with those things, and he doesn't. They're meant to be those. Hey, I'm gonna fight other people's dragons or other people's monsters.
Well, they're gonna be nuts. He's playing Living City, right?
Yeah.
So they're gonna come off of a board edge. They're gonna shoot. They're gonna move again, and then they're gonna charge. Like Fulminators, we've seen it in Living City. They're a problem. So good luck to you. That's a good list.
Yeah.
Karazai's got the same game plan where he can come off a board edge, though his base is big enough that he has to come off a corner. That's probably going to end up being deployed. If I had to guess, like I said, he plays Joel a lot, and Joel's been playing Nurgle, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's a Mountains of Loathsome Flesh problem.
All right. Well, good luck. And then let's see. We got another Ryan here at Ryan Inman for Sons of Behemat. This is going to be probably...
Tribe. We haven't seen this one in a while.
We got a War Stomper, a Kraken Eater, a Gatebreaker, and a triple Man Crusher.
So this is just your standard.
Typical. Yeah, the first one I've seen that's just a regular all giant army. No Kragnos, no Incarnate. Good. He's got Glowy Lantern and Arcane Tome. So he's got 2 units with flaming weapons. So one's gonna cast Mystic Shield, and the other one's going to cast a Flaming Weapon. Which honestly, I think the Kraken Eater. I'm surprised he did Glowy Lantern, but I think he's probably thinking, let's just do tankiness, or you give the Kraken Eater the Mystic Shield, and then the Gatebreaker. We'll do.
Well, they've been looking for ways to circumvent the artifacts that they used to have, the 5-up ward. So they've been looking for ways to circumvent that.
Yeah, maybe he's doing the crack. If he's really worried, the Kraken Eater is putting the Mystic Shield on the Gatebreaker. The Gatebreaker is also putting flaming weapons on himself. So he's just kind of souping up the Gatebreaker to go in, and if he needs to, he has all out defense. He can do Finest Hour, and between those things, he can mitigate most threats in the game with that +3 to his save.
Well, good luck.
The OG Sons of Behemat list was always a matter of the Gatebreaker is your giant hammer that you have to protect. And unless you were running a dual Gatekeeper list or Gatebreaker list, it was very much a goal of what can I do to keep this alive long enough to deliver the damage, because he's the one with all the Ren and he's the one with all the damage.
Right. So good luck, Ryan. And up next we have Ryan Quirk with another Cities of Sigmar, Living City. He is a Dallas Defender. So, we got the Vendest.
He's got
Fulminators, Incarnate. Oh God, 40 free guild crossbowmen. Ooh. Hey, there's the anointed on Frostheart Phoenix. So this looks a lot similar to, I think, what Gavin ran at LSO. Obviously not with Incarnate. Dragons instead, but it's got a lot of shooting, and then you have Deloria to provide the bonus to the free guild crossbowmen. The Fulminators are going to deep strike and do their shooting and then movement afterwards, and then the anointed on Frostheart looks like he's just going to be that aura, because I believe it's -1 to wound for attacks in the aura, and then he's going to be kind of like a little anvil as well, helping screen out some stuff.
This does sound very similar to Gavin's LVO list, yeah.
So, I think it's excellent. I know that Cliff is also basically running the same list that Gavin has, and we saw
the exact same army.
Yeah, same models and everything, but the idea is like that list still is ridiculous. I hope I don't.
This was my earlier comment of Games Workshop's decision to break apart coalitions in chaos is the correct direction. Yeah. Please catch up the rest of the books. That would be good. You've made a good decision. Please follow through and make it equitable to the other armies.
I completely agree. Because don't get me wrong, I love the mix that Cities of Sigmar has. I think it's a little ridiculous. You're usually bringing.
Well, it's one-sided now. After they took Slaves to Darkness and said, or Chaos in general, and said no. This is too much. You have access to too many things, too many combos we didn't expect. And then everyone's like, okay, well, we'll go do the same thing over here in Cities of Sigmar. And
this list, just like Gavin's list, half of the list is not cities. And that's what you're seeing with a lot of it, is it's not like, oh, I got a god tier character like, Archaon or anything like that. One of the
recurring discussions that Randy, Milo, and I have had is that a lot of the the Stormcast Eternal models are actually better in Living Cities than they are in Stormcast Eternals, and that Living Cities is actually the best Storm host. Yep. And that's not the way the game should work. That's just not good design. When playing outside your book is better for your unit than playing in it.
Well, and Living City, when you look at it, it was when they first made that, I guarantee you they did not mean for the army to do what it does now. A lot of the shooting that they're looking at, even pre-book update Stormcast, you really had nothing that you could run in there to make it work. Most people were running, Sylvaneth stuff and things that really didn't. Yeah, so.
Well, think about it though. They've announced that they're making a new Cities of Sigmar faction. What better way to get a bunch of Cities of Sigmar fans in the game to buy that new Cities of Sigmar faction than let you run hog wild with it for a year, and not mess with it. So that's not my thought process. I think that they just didn't see a lot of it coming. I've seen a lot of the game testers. There's what is it, Facehammer? Those are some testers, if I'm not mistaken. There's so much detail in the game that we play that there's, a lot of us will like to blame GW. They don't even know how to play their own game. No, there's just a lot of intricacy that is hard to plan ahead while writing a single book. It is not to take a little like all of the credit off of them, but we as a community have created this scenario where everything is broken all the time. We try to break everything as a community. It's unfortunate, but I still think in the Age of Sigmar community, a lot of us still will play the things we want to play. Like with the upcoming Doc book, like we talked about, I think there's going to be a really good way to play it. But I'm going to play 30 Snakes. I'm going to play 30 Blood Sisters, and it's going to be a decent way to play it. Will it be the top end? I don't think so, but there's enough of us still in the community that will play the things we want to play. Yep.
And I think to your point about you're effectively crowdsourcing someone trying to break your system by virtue of just putting the book out there and letting the AOS community go nuts with it. And that's kind of it's very similar in a strange way to cybersecurity, right? Where it's a lot easier for a very large number of people to find an exploit in your software than it is for you as a developer to actually prevent all the things that could possibly go wrong.
Yeah, you can't predict every scenario.
And so I think that the best approach that Games Workshop could have, and the best lesson they could take, is that worry less about being perfect the first time, worry more about responding to problems.
Which is funny, because I recently started playing 40K. I actually did what most players did, where opposite, where they came from 40K into AOS, and I noticed that they kind of do that with a lot of their most recent stuff, where they're coming out with book after book after book, and the shit is fucking busted as soon as it comes out. I mean, like 90% win rate, and within 2 weeks it gets FAQ'd, because they see all the major problems and they address it much quicker than in our cases where they're seeing. Now, I'm saying it's perfect. I like some of their stuff a little bit better.
Some of the broken things we find are a little bit more obscure. Like Living City wasn't. I mean, Living City was good before, but then Giants entering the fold and the new Fulminator War Scroll.
We have a lot
Living City is a contender now.
We have a lot of outdated rules that have different meanings. That's like why Seraphon is still so good, is a lot of their rules that they have are just kind of like outdated in the wordings of it, and so it ends up really being effective in the new edition.
I would not be surprised.
Like a 2-year-old book, like they had no way to plan ahead and think, okay, when I write this Fulminator and Dragon War Scroll, it's going to break the game in Cities of Sigmar. They didn't.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it comes down to, I think the rules turn in 40K might just be faster than the rules turn.
That's why I think exactly is the thing, is that there's just a lot of more turnaround time where they don't have enough way to abuse those old rules. Because when we talk about a lot of stuff we're doing, a lot of the broken stuff, it's just outdated rules from other factions that people are running that stuff into. So,
and a lot of time you'll get stuff like Gavin's Beast of Chaos list, where it's, here's an old book, but we're going to pull in these specific pieces of it that aged decently, and these units from somewhere else, and this piece from over here. And the result is that, despite the fact that it's an old book, it gives life to something that is very long in the tooth. And that's actually kind of a good thing a lot of the time.
Yeah, I think so too.
So, not to interrupt everything with yet another tangent when we're trying to get a list review show in, but I felt that was a comment worth making. So,
no, it's definitely good. So up next we have our final Ryan of the night, Ryan Rutherford with Sons of Slambo, Beasts of Chaos, Gave Spawn. So you want to take it away since you were talking about Beasts of Chaos?
I know almost nothing about Beasts of Chaos, other than they got a new Hearthstone and it's really good.
Okay.
What I've heard is from listening to a few of the videos coaches made, talking to people who do play it, and I've heard the term waves of trash, where you just assume all of your army is bad, but there's enough of it that can only die so fast that it doesn't matter that your whole army is bad, because there's too many things to actually kill.
Right.
This is pretty good. Like Zangor and Lightning on Disc are really good. Zangor's
Dragon
a part of that Gavin list that you talked about was slap full of Zangors.
I wish he would put the weapon loadout on the Dragon Ogres. But other than that, basically he's going to just keep buffing the rend on a lot of stuff. You can give the Dragon Ogre Shaggoth has a spell that, like one of the things that you were talking about earlier as far as like the outdated rules, their spells are some of the best spells in the game. They are just so good with like, I just increase rend by 1. I can pick a terrain piece within 18 or 24 inches, and every unit in that distance or within 3 of it on a 4-up suffers D3 mortals. Like, I mean, just really crazy abilities that you can do. And then there's one that like is a giant killer. Like you just pick a giant and then it slams into something else and does, roll 35 dice and every 5-up is a mortal wound. Like, it's just insane spells that on other things are pretty garbage because you're unlikely to get it on a casting value 7 most of the time. But when you have Arcane Tome, Master of Magic, you have all these things that really shouldn't have been able to do it, now taking advantage of it. Zangors will be able to take advantage of a lot of stuff, and that now they get even more rend, where you have Zangors now starting with -2 rend, I believe, and then they can get up to -3, and you can give them the spell for -4. You can do debuffs with some
and the
units.
biggest point, in my opinion, is what we just saw it happen. Matt Robisch, one of the most knowledgeable players in the game, says, "I have no idea what this does," and that is an asset in a tournament. Yep. Like if your opponent, like every good player is gonna rattle off at the beginning of the game what their army does. You're going to absorb about 10% of that, and yep. You're not going to know how to pick this apart. It's got so much trash, but inside of the trash are gems that are going to tear you open if you can't get them off the board.
The big thing is they're going to be doing buffs and sitting there generating the call points. And, I mean, the Dragon Ogre Shaggoth is going to be probably generating a few by himself, just with the new buffs to that. So you're going to be... If I were him, I'd probably just keep summoning Dragon Ogres, because you only need like 6 to keep summoning like another 3 block of Dragon Ogres, which is 15 wounds with a 4-up save. And, they have good rend as well. And then the scary part is those Zangors, not only on the discs, but the regular Zangors, you can have it where if they're within range of the terrain piece, the Herdstone, they're rallying on a 4-up. So that is really,
20
really
Zangors
disgusting.
Is a problem to get through if you're not prepared for it.
Yeah, that rally is disgusting. So like you better hope that you have a monster that can fly and knock that thing down as quickly as possible.
On top of the increasing rend penalty over time. So one, Brian, thank you for the compliment. 2, you're completely right. Off meta means that people don't know how to play against it and don't have a plan. Having a script that you can start with is a good way to make sure that you can save time during your game and not make mistakes. And if you're second guessing yourself, that's yourself losing focus on the stuff that was part of your script. 3, Ryan is in chat and has made a comment that 185 wounds of trash is still 185 wounds.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, this list is nuts.
Yeah,
like, it's...
I had a...
and I don't think all 185 of it is trash. There's, like, enough trash that you're going to spend your time trying to chew through shit that doesn't matter, and then you're never going to make it to the things that matter until turn 3. And then at turn 3, you want no part of it. You want no part of this army turn 3 and forward. So it is. I mean, my Underguts thrived on no one knowing what Underguts did. Granted, it was a decent army, but no one knew what it did and knew how to pick it apart. I mean, it was very similar here. Is none of it matters to his game plan. Like, if you kill something, okay, fine, I got more. Like.
Yeah, and I see Ryan's talking about that he'd run a whole army of them if he owned it. I have a list that because I have like Chaos Dwarf models and stuff, and they have the Bull Centaurs, and so I'm just running them as the Dragon Ogres. And the list that I have has 30 of them, and the list is over like 210 wounds. And every turn I'm summoning another 3, and so it's just like by the end of the game you have, and they're all 4-up saves, and they all have really good rend, really good damage. By the end of the game, you have it where you're like over 250 wounds, and most of your opponents just cannot handle it. Even dragons and stuff, they're killing. It's like, oh, you killed a unit or whatever, but I'm bringing it back within that same turn. It's disgusting how ridiculous that list can be, and I think it's only because the only reason why we're not seeing more abuse from it is because people don't want to pick up the models for it.
And I think my point number 4 that I'm going to throw in here is that I think I'm, if memory serves correctly, 0-3 for games against Ryan. So once again, Ryan knows what he's doing with this list, right? Like,
I was going to add that point. Ryan knows what he's doing. Like, this is not somebody that we all haven't heard of playing an army that we haven't heard of. This is a player that most of us know. If you play in the Texas circuit, you know Ryan Rutherford. You know the name, and he's going to get some work done with it.
All right. So up next we have Spencer Miller with Ironjawz. Did we already?
Never met him. Definitely wasn't just spectating a game that I played on a stream on the Weird Knob stream about 4 hours ago. Definitely, thank you for the pizza, Spencer.
Yeah, I mean, this list is very similar. Not to say this isn't a good list, but this list is very similar to the one we talked about not too long ago, earlier this stream, where it's just basically you're running a Maw Crusher, you're buffing it up, you're going ahead and using the Gore-Gruntas. Now, he does have the variation where the brutes are going, like, they're gonna really chew things up, which is awesome. I think they do better in the other sub faction. I can't remember the name of it, but
is he Iron Suns or Bloodtooths this time?
He's running Bloodtooths from what I can see. So
okay,
he's not countercharging in your opponent's turn, but he does have he is running the battle line Gore-Gruntas. So I think it's still great. I mean, he's got the teleport as well from the War Chanter because he gave him the Arcane Tome. So, and then he has the Mega Boss on foot with Destroyer, which is a hidden gem as far as like getting that in and messing it up. And between the two of them, well, he doesn't have it where he can do the Mighty Destroyer twice, but he does have Fasten on the Mega Boss with Maw Crusher. So he has like basically a 2-wave prong attack where the first wave with the Maw Crusher and all the Gore Grunters is go in, tie everything down. The brutes go on. You can't really get off of them unless you kill them. And then if your first wave dies, those brutes are more than capable of killing anything after that.
Yeah, I know that Spencer had originally built this list to play Iron Suns with all the brutes. I think he tried several versions on Tabletop Simulator, some with Kragnos, some without, and it sounds like he never really settled on anything in Iron Suns that he was happy with the plan of just being countercharged in your opponent's charge phase. And it sounds like it looks like he's now moved on to playing with Bloodtooths and going for exactly this 2-wave approach that you're talking about, which I think makes a lot of sense too.
I think Bloodtooths is the more like reasonable one to go through. Don't get me wrong, Kragnos and Iron Suns is ridiculously good, but you don't want to be running Gore Gruntas in there. You basically are just running brutes, I think, and just countercharging.
Also, just an easy thing that we think like, okay, I can just take an objective away from them with 40 zombies. Well, not with brutes sitting on there. Like you're one wound, you don't count.
Yep. So, but yeah. So I mean, I think that's going to be a lot of these Ironjawz lists. They're going to take out a lot of the armies that should be making it to the 4-0, 5-0, and they're just going to knock them out because they can't handle it. So
I think you're absolutely right. Ironjawz have all the check boxes to be an excellent gatekeeper because they then run into something like we talked about with that rock paper scissors game of Gargants or Soulblight or Nurgle,
some
one of the big some Stormcast. Yeah, we've even seen several Stormcast Stormkeeps that are heavy in wound count where they just say I can't kill it all on the first charge. What's my bad?
And you're punching through a 5-up ward into some of those Stormkeeps. So it's like somebody can just roll hot on their 5-up wards, and it doesn't matter how good your army is or how well your decision making was. They rolled hot on 5-ups and you didn't kill them where you mathematically should have.
A lot of the Stormcast armies that we've seen, they're running a bunch of stuff in MSU, and then like one big thing in a big block. And so that's what I think you're going to see is that smash and bash. A good player is going to use that effectively where they hit all those things and they're taking them all out, and then the big thing goes into their big thing, and then it's like their army's decimated.
Exactly. And that's why this feels like the kind of list that is going to have extremely good matchups and extremely bad matchups. And the result is that your final tournament standing is largely going to depend on what order you get those in.
Mm-hmm. So
if you get your bad matchups early on and it's a round one game where you go, this isn't an army I can play, but maybe this is an easier opponent. Maybe I can work off that and try to outplay the bad matchup. If you pull one of those in game 5, it's going to be a real uphill fight.
Yep.
On the other hand, maybe you pull one of the armies that you can just rip through and they don't have enough screens and there's nothing they can do to stop you. And that's the game you want to see going into game 5 is where you've got the rock, paper, scissors advantage playing in your favor. And that's good luck to you, sir.
So, Steven, is it Stephen?
Stephen Miller or Stephen Mason.
Stephen, okay. We got Stormcast
constantly. Sorry, guys.
Stardrake, Bastion, Andrasta. So, is this another guy you're very familiar with, Matt?
Yeah, Steve. The stream I was just referring to, Spencer was shoutcasting it while Steven was the other guy on the other microphone.
Okay.
So again, thank you for hosting. That was a great time. Steven's been as long as he doesn't like cut his hair, and then I see him from behind, and then I just go, "Who's the new guy over there?" Sorry.
This list looks pretty good. I think it's much more of the on the casual side. I mean, obviously, I say that there's, fulminators, but I
don't think Steven would even be offended by that. He likes to. He is kind of at the point where he's trying to switch from. He's been looking for a house, and now he has one. So, house hunting is not a quick process,
especially in Austin.
Yeah, especially in Austin right now. No kidding.
Yeah. But I mean, have you played this list or seen him?
I have not actually played against it. I know Jeff has played several games against it, and I think that they're 50-50 at the moment. So, I mean, I can see the Harrower in chat, so he can correct me if I'm wrong. But I think that he's kind of been taking the game. Steven's been kind of taking the game fairly easily and casually for a while, and he's kind of at the point where, okay, now that I've got the house, I'm moved in, that's all taken care of. Let's start taking this a little bit more seriously and see what we can do with actually getting a handle on the other armies out there and getting a handle on what everything in my book is. And let's see what we can do with that. So, yeah, that's why you're starting to see more fulminators. Steven was classically our guy who would show up to Go Trek in every list that he put. Doesn't matter if it's 1,000 points. The first 500 is Go Trek. Let's just figure out. Let's just have fun. I'm going to hit things.
I mean, it's like 1,250 points in Heroes. So I'm not. I say casual in the sense that, like, I think it's going to kill a lot of stuff. I mean, it's fulminators and the Heroes are going to kill a lot of stuff. You just have no bodies. So I think you're going to really, really struggle where a player is going to be able to take out, your Relictor and your Vindictors. And he does have call for aid, of course. So, I mean, that makes sense at least. But what's the wound count? I bet it's 84. So you're starting at 84 wounds on an army that already kind of struggles with the body count. So I think that's going to be somewhat of a problem for him. But it looks like a list that he's like, I'm just going to go kill your shit and not worry about it.
Yeah, and Elijah said this was his first event in the chat, so I hope you come out and have a good time. Like, everyone remembers their first event. I mean, you could do very well with this, teleporting Bastion and Fulminators around. I mean, you could do very well with this. It's just the minute you don't know what you're sending those Fulminators into and you've overestimated their abilities and they get taken off the table, your army immediately becomes less scary to your opponent, and then they can really go on the aggressive.
Well, especially since he does have a monster and he does have 2 priority targets. That's really gonna hurt, I think, in terms of, like, if he starts losing those, he's not gonna have enough battle tactics. His stuff will not be able to get broken ranks to get the bring it down and stuff like that. I mean, maybe Yndrasta can help with that one, but he's not really going to be able to effectively be able to do it because the movement's going to be really bad. And so, I think that's...
He's in the chat. I think he's in the chat right now. He said that Yndrasta should be a prime, but he doesn't have it painted. That would be awesome to have this as a prime. You just got all the big boys in there, the old school big boys in there, plus Bastion. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I feel like Steven's goal with this list is very much that either it works or it doesn't. And if it works, then the fact that he might run out of battle tactics is very secondary to the fact that the other guys run out of models. If it doesn't work, then the fact that he doesn't have any battle tactics is very secondary to the fact that he doesn't have any models.
Right. At that point, it's all moot anyway. So, but good luck, man. Hope you have a good time. So, All right. So
come find me. I'll buy you a beer at your first event.
Swanger, is that his name? Swanger Harbroth.
Swanger Harbroth. That sounds like a cowboy. I like him already.
We almost need to have a competition for who has the coolest name in this tournament.
Well, Swang's Nurgle goodness here. The Fouling Host, Great and Clean One, Lord of Affliction. So I don't see okay, so he didn't go as heavy with Slimux and...
hold on. Are you saying the same thing I am? Because I'm shouting Ironjawz Deepkin.
Oh, did I click on the wrong guy here? Swinger, right?
A Morphon list.
I'm showing a Deepkin. Are you guys seeing something else?
Yeah, I'm
looking at your screen, so I'm going with Deepkin.
Okay, you can see the Deepkin, right? I have
the first line on the list is his name, right? Swanger is the first thing it says. Sure.
So okay, well we'll go with the Deepkin, and then
on BCP, where are you pulling that from?
BCP, but I'm using the website on the computer, so I don't know if the app is showing something different.
No, I mean I'm on the website on the computer too. That's weird because it Swings Nurgle Goodness is the name of his army here.
So, okay, well, definitely get with Dan and confirm that, because we're showing two different lists. You may have swapped it out, but we just want confirmation. So, but we'll just say the Deepkin one. It's very similar to what we've seen. He has the thralls in 10 blocks instead of the 20 blocks like we've seen. He's got the guard out there in the front, but he also has the Leviathan. So he's really going in on, I think, tanking up while his thralls kind of move up the board and can get into stuff. He's got the Soul Render and the Thrall Master.
Morphon's an interesting choice.
Sorry, what?
Morphon's an interesting choice. I'd heard that was one of the more underwhelming enclaves, especially if you're going with a Leviathan, where you probably are trying to lean into, like, what I've seen from our local Deepkin players is that the Leviathan really shines in
Battle line.
Yeah, Nalar, I think it is. Yes. And otherwise, 500 points is real expensive for what you get, even plus one save.
Is this the one where you resurrect more models or something on the...
I'm going to be honest, I don't know what it is in the new book. I know in the old book it was that the Soul Renders revived more models at a time, and I do see a Soul Render here, so it's probably something fairly similar.
I think it's +3 or something like that on the res.
But if I remember correctly, the general reaction was that, the problems with the Soul Render's resurrection was that it was only during your Battle Shock phase, so you had to survive into Battle Shock, then roll Battle Shock, then get models back to a unit that's not completely dead, but only on your own turn, so your opponent's turn you were still just going to lose those models anyway.
Yeah, and that's very interesting that I don't know how I know all about the eel side of this list from 2.0, but I would expect that the 10 blocks probably isn't the way to go. So I don't know if you're going to be focusing on resurrecting. Usually, I would imagine a 20 block.
Yeah, chat saying it's the Nurgle list that this may have been a joke upload that has since been replaced, or a decision that somebody is switching. Okay,
well, I don't. See
I'll go over the Nurgle one real quick. It's
go ahead.
Very similar. It's the befouling host, and it's got a lot of Blight Lords and Blight Kings. So 10 Blight Kings, 2 plus gold Blight Lords, two units of 2. Double Feculent Narwhal. So he doesn't have where the other befouling host, went into Slimucks to get the summoning stuff, and so he's just got a great unclean one. With Stream of Corruption, Nurgling Infestation also as his command trait. With the Witherstave, Witherstave doing its thing. This is going to be a hard army. If this is what he's playing, it's going to be a hard army to move, and it's going to have Nurglings doing Nurgling things. Beast of Nurgle tying you up. Again, it's going to probably summon a Sloppity Vilepyper turn 1 and tie you up with Beast of Nurgle, and then hold the mid board with the Blight Kings and Blight Lords being his super fast unit. So it wants to go to the mid board and hold it while you have to fight your way through 4 Beast of Nurgle, which, if anyone's fought Beast of Nurgle so far, you think you got enough damage to kill them, and you leave them there on 1 wound. And then you're stuck fighting them for another turn. And then when that Sloppity Vilepyper comes in, it really gets stupid, and you can't deal with him.
I reloaded the page, and for some reason it changed. So I don't know if that happened in the last hour or what. So, but we have it up now. So.
Okay, so Tanya. I don't know how to pronounce that.
Shibi? with Pants Mafia. Awesome.
Pants Mafia. Flesh Eater Quartz. Blister Skin. I like it.
Ooh, got some Crypt Flayers. That's what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah. 12 Crypt Flayers.
Zombie Dragon. Terrorgeist.
Standard, kind of standard what we're seeing. Blister Skin's going to let them move. They're going to get extra movement on everything. They're going to be faster. Let's see what else is here.
On an off note, I'm very surprised to see that we have 3 or 4 Feck armies showing to this, because I've been playing this for 3 years now, and I swear everyone told me about the horror stories of Feck, back in 2019 and stuff, and then I never saw it at a single GT. Not one that I've been to in the last year. A Feck really was. If there was one, I never saw them. And then now all of a sudden there's 3 of them. So
Gristlegore got nerfed is the biggest thing. They went from ASF as basically a command trait to only strike first on the turn that you charge, which is still good, but significantly less impressive. And then I think that there was slowly a shift it to Blister Skin, and then it was just a matter of the rest of the game kind of caught up.
Yeah,
and I think they really got hit hard by when they took away the realm artifacts, because you used to have the what is it called, Doppelganger Cloak on your Terrorgeist, so that you couldn't. Terrorgeist would go in, fight twice, kill the things that he was into, and then you can't even engage him until he fought again, till he engaged you. So he's relatively free there, and then. On the Zombie Dragon, that one usually carried the Ethereal Amulet. So you had one really killy Terrorgeist and then one Zombie Dragon that was tough to kill.
Yeah. So I get before we had that reel in there. I'm just surprised that out of nowhere we're back where people are playing Feck. So it's really interesting to see that dynamic for this GT.
This is just a theory of mine, is I think people tried to play Avengory, where these things were battle line, and it just... they had their Terrorgeist, and then they just kind of looked at the Feck book and realized Terrorgeists are probably just better in Feck than they are in Avengory. And fighting twice with a Terrorgeist is a nightmare. They will remove things that you had. You got 2 up save, I don't care. I'm going to do flat 6 mortal wounds to you when I bite you, and I'm going to do that 6 plus D3 times. So.
Yeah, Feeding Frenzy and Gruesome Bite and the bonus attack spells are the reason that Terrorgeists have the reputation they have, not the actual War Scroll itself. The War Scroll itself is okay, but fairly glass. When you play them in Soulblight, all you've got is that okay War Scroll. When you play them in Feck, you have the support that makes them terrifying. So I think you may actually be onto something here, Brian. I think you're spot on where people bought them, tried them, and didn't like them. I at least played on TTS, downloaded them, and tried them, and didn't like them.
Yeah.
Yeah, you didn't. You weren't stuck holding 3 Terrorgeists.
But I'm glad to see that they're making a comeback. So, up next we have Terran Huffman.
Tehran. This guy is an awesome player. He played Zach and I. Not necessarily myself, but Zach, obviously one of the better players that you're going to run into. And I mean, Zach was back there on the he needed everything to go right with a Seraphon list, and rolled his way into getting a win on game 1 against Tehran. From what I understand, he plays against Marco a lot, and when Marco's talking about how he hates OBR and he hates Lumineth, this is the guy that's tearing him up with it. That was the first tournament I had seen him at, but learn the name. The guy's a good player before we even start messing with his list, but great player.
So right off the bat, I fight Lumineth enough to kind of know what's going on here with the Syar, but 71 wounds. My goodness, that is rough.
You think so? I played this list.
I know he's got Life Swarm, but Severith is also he didn't put it on here, but Severith is also the double points. So he's got to make sure that he keeps that in mind. Not that it's it is difficult to take him down. But if their enemy has shooting and they can effectively get into him, he's gonna be a free
dude. I
pointer.
shot everything in my ogre army at that 20 block of sentinels on turn 1 and killed 7 of them, and then it all came back.
He doesn't have any sentinels, does he?
I mean, not sentinels. I'm sorry. The 20 block of wardens. He has no sentinels.
Yeah.
Here.
Well, so the thing is that I'm actually a little surprised he's running Syar instead of whatever the other one, not alumni.
Alumnia would have been the other one that I'd put for a list like this.
Yeah, well, because you want to give him the max speed available. Now he does have speed of Hish for the wardens, so I mean I can see he's still going to move.
And he has a teleport.
Yeah, I mean,
so he's got some things.
That's fine. I mean, I just think that it's a list that is going to struggle with taking objectives. Now, Teclis obviously can carry a lot, and Severith can do it, but 71 wounds, and you don't really have a way to get him back. So you're going to be able to do what a lot. This list is a lot like OBR, where I see a lot of people will run 10 blocks of the Mortek Guard, and it's like, well, these Mortek Guard are really difficult to kill because they're just going to keep coming back and stuff. But if you kill the 10 block, they don't come back, and that's something that I see a lot with Lumineth players, is they run a lot of those 10 blocks thinking that they're just not going to die, and then people will take them off the board really easily. So I'm not saying it's not going to be a good list. I think this list is still scary, but I fought Lumineth enough times to know that like the part of what the Cathaler is doing with Goading Arrogance and what you're trying to accomplish with it is very difficult if you have very low bodies. And so I think that this probably would have done a little better in the other sub-faction where you can put that speed of Hish and the extra movement on that 20 block of Wardens.
And then it can run and charge too. Mm-hmm. So you put speed of Hish on it, it runs and charges.
So you're doing you're moving them like 24 inches, and then they charge with their 3-inch attacks. And then on one of the battle plans, you can give them an extra 3 inches on their run, so they can really book in. 24 or 20 Wardens running up there and getting into you, and you can, Teclis can put make them ethereal, give them they're obviously -1 to hit unless they charge, obviously, but they can get all those buffs and stuff that just make them really ridiculous to fight. So but I think that it's gonna do really well. I mean, so
my question is this a list where you want to be aggressive, or is this a list that's trying to make its bodies, that the few bodies it has, last as long as possible?
No,
because Syar looks like a defensive play, 100%.
100% Syar is defensive.
You, like if you have Giants and Kragnos or something like that, aggressive is your thing. You don't even make a decision; you just go. But if you have an army with options, this wants you to get aggressive. It really does, because they're sitting there in the Teclis bubble with the 5-up ward and the -1 to hit, and they double activate. This army wants you to get aggressive. It really does. Yeah. And because of with Total Eclipse, you're basically going to be War Scroll versus War Scroll, and their War Scroll is better in a lot. They're going to get empowered, and
here's my only problem.
It wants you to get aggressive. I think what's going to happen is a lot of people are going to screw up against this, and by the time they realize it, it's going to be too late.
Yeah, I think my problem with it is that what you see with a lot of these lists, instead Severith doesn't have enough shooting threat to make your opponent want to come to you. So if you're sitting there as a Lumineth player and you're playing Syar, you want your opponent to charge you, like you said. You want them to get up in your face so Teclis can do everything. But the problem is, I think that without the Sentinel threat, you're not really giving your opponents a good enough reason. Because if they have a Kragnos, let's say, that Kragnos is just going to go sit up on an objective and then just wait for you to come to the Kragnos. And if Kragnos gets close enough, because you can't hurt him with magic. I mean, 90% of the time he's negating the cast on it. So, and you have no way to really hurt him outside of maybe Teclis's and Severith's shooting attack. But that's not really worth it because he's on a 2-up save.
In the chat, Jeremy Stroh just got in, and he's like, "Don't worry, guys. I have no idea what I'm doing with my list either." So.
Well, the big thing about Kragnos, though, is that he's real reliant on that 2-up save to keep himself alive.
Of course.
And while you don't have the magic from Teclis to bring him down, you do have just 5 and 6s on the mortal wounds from the spears, because that is not an attack spell. That's just a buff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm not but if the 20 wardens, I think but once again, now you're forcing your opponent to come to you. You're forcing the Lumineth player to move and charge you, or you risk Kragnos going wherever he wants, and you still 20 wardens is not enough to take the objective from him. He's still 30 models.
That's the big problem I see.
Yeah, so
our Lumineth have that if you can apply the pressure, they're going to struggle.
Yeah,
that's the problem.
Against my army, like a Teclis just wipes me off the board. But against a lot of those, like we mentioned earlier with the Gatekeeper armies, that's really, I think this list is really going to struggle with it. And then this is going to be a Gatekeeper army to a lot of those other lists. So, but I think it's good. I think Sire is a weird pick, but I'm not saying that in a bad way. I think that it's something that I would have to see in person to actually see how well it plays.
I definitely think it's leaning into a more defensive posture, and I think that the list's biggest concern is not Kragnos running and charging where he wants to fight. It's Kragnos walking up to an objective, stopping 3 inches away from the line, and saying, "But I'm more models than you."
Yep. And you have to break Shining Host. You have to break Shining Host to charge, because otherwise you can't attack him. So then he's just going to sit there staring at you. So. Yeah,
I think that I feel like this is. If the Sentinels were there, then it's forcing the issue by saying, I'm going to plink you apart. You have to push into this.
Yep.
Without the Sentinels, I feel like you have to make the real question of, do I actually want to charge any of this, or do I just want to get close to the objective and make them charge?
That's what happened when I played him. Like, it came down to, I shot turn 1, and I was like, I just did nothing. So turn 2, I just went in, got on every objective, and I was like, come out and kill 82 wounds of ogres. Come and kill them, like, and chew through 40 Noblars on your way in, like. So
yeah.
And Lumineth always struggle with volume damage. They have value attacks, so that's why I said Kragnos. I think they actually kill him, but like you said,
what about the other 3 giants? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and the thing too is, like, you're really going into that goading arrogance for this Cathalar, and the problem is the Cathalar's ability really is only good if you get charged, like the Wardens get charged and you're within that 6, so then Kragnos or whatever is just sitting there not able to fight. If you have to move the Cathalar up to try to do it, you are severely risking that Cathalar dying and you positioning yourself outside Teclis' range for his ward save, and opening up that thing where something may, it doesn't take much for something to get out of place and you can charge behind, and then Teclis just gets wiped or the Cathalar gets wiped, and then now their bravery thing is gone, and Lumineth fall apart when they don't have their heroes.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge that he's going to have to face with this list, is that it has all of the defensive tools that make you not want to charge it, and none of the incentives that force you to charge it. And I know that I'm sorry, I apologize because I get this name wrong every time. I know Terran has part of the reason he pulled the Sentinels was because of all the backlash and hate they got, and it was an attempt to make a list that was almost as effective or as effective, but more palatable. And props to you for doing that, sir. We really appreciate it when people are like, this is not a popular unit. I don't need to run it to win a game, so I'm going to run something that people will have more fun with, and then both I and my opponent will have a better game. Thank you.
Yeah. Definitely props to you, man. All right, so next we have the Esteban Santos, Dallas defender with Ideneth Deepkin, ran Futhan. We got a lot of Alopexes. That's what I'm talking about. What the heck is Ban Renar Cruelwater? This is the name of the Achillean King that he's running.
Oh yeah, I guess he's probably created some lore for his army, which is always awesome. I'd like to see it, but
my goodness, man! I'm telling you, those Alopexes, like, I think a lot of people have been spared the wrath of an Alopex heavy army because most people just don't see them, and they don't fight Deepkin in general down here in Texas, and now they're going to see those Alapexes just absolutely destroy them.
What is this, like 12? 10, 12 Alapexes?
You have, what was it, each one?
9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, 2 times 3, and then 3.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot of, I mean, what's the wounds characters? 89 wounds. Yeah, so I mean, it's a ton of, and it's all in Shark, so like by itself is a little weird, but you just keep tagging your opponents on the side of their units, and they're just stuck there. They can't do anything. So,
and Sharks are very much like those, like I was talking about with the Beast and Nurgle, where you think you got enough damage to take the Sharks out, and you leave them on 1 wound, and they're just as viable on 1 wound as they are on 8 or 6 or whatever it is they have. So
I was thinking about this earlier, but like the Alopex is like the perfect unit for what I wish Slaanesh had, in terms of being able to kind of not only proc some of their depravity, but also to tie things down and prevent them from piling in and stuff. Like it's a lot of what I wish that, like I wish there was a unit very similar to that. So I think the Alapexes are really good.
All right, Esteban, I'm looking forward to seeing it, buddy.
The one concern I would have for this list is that I don't believe Alapexes have the monster keyword.
They do not.
Which means that total, how many models does this list count as?
Let's see. It'd be 24.
9 sharks, right? So you got 3 singles and then 2 groups of 3, so that's 9. So that's 18.
18. 9. 2. 2. So 6 plus 19, so 25.
25 models.
That's, I think, the biggest concern is it counts as 25 models.
Yeah.
You're going to get on objectives and say, fine, I can't kill you, but...
Yeah, that's the list, right? Here. I'm just going to kill everything you have. So, it looks fun.
That's the other, to pull a line from James West, back when he was running his Ever-Chosen list, 13 models is still more than 0.
Yeah.
All right, so we got JTJ running ogres. Wow, you must have left an impression there, Brian.
Oh, running Iron Guts. Yeah, he's been messing with this list and tweaking it.
4 Iron Blasters. Good God.
Yeah, his list has grown. The only, he's got 3 units of 20 Noblars, Hrothgorn and the Man Trappers. I would like to see, instead of that third 20 block of Noblars, I would like to see Black Powder in there, because Black Powder brings a lot to the list. Like, 20 Noblars is still 20 Noblars. It's still 20 bodies on an objective. So there are areas where they're better at it. They're better at some things, but he's just really good. Like when your giant comes in with sandals and he snatches them off, or your Maw Crusher comes flying in with Destroyer and didn't realize Black Powder was there, and he snatches Destroyer off of a Maw Crusher. So he starts turning things real pillow-fisted.
185 wounds. That is a lot. 15 drops. That's going to be one of the highest that we've seen so far.
Well, that was what mine was. Yeah, it was 15 drops, 185 wounds. Mine was like 182 ish. And let's see. The only thing I don't like is that. Oh, he finally put it. He put Blubbergrub Stench on there. Yep. I would like to see, instead of 4 units of 4 lead belchers, I would like to see 1-8, because lead belchers with 8 bodies innately charge like monsters. So they do their shooting damage, they charge like a monster, and then they fight like a truck. So, but it's fine the way it is. Everybody wants to put their own little spin on every list out there. But it's an overall good list. If you don't know how to pick it apart, it's going to be a handful. Iron Blasters are great for their points in this build because they got 2 shots apiece. It'll be against heroes and monsters. It'll be 3s and 2s, negative 2d6 damage on those shots. So, and everything in his army in that bubble around the tyrant is going to get +1 to hit against heroes and monsters. So, Which a lot of times is what's going to be the problem, what can rush you that early. And if you can't rush it, if you can't close the distance and get in there on there, the Army's going to pick you apart. Like Doc, it really has fun with Doc because Doc is so low wound count, it can effectively get the damage on Marathi without engaging her. And it can put the bow snakes in timeout because it's like, I'm going to deploy outside your range. I move 1 inch faster than you. And if you give me the turn, I'm going to start shooting bow snakes and start knocking them off the table. Or at least that's the threat. You never want to have to shoot bow snakes, but because you're not getting any buffs to it. But that's the threat. That's the scary part. Like in Austin, I made a guy. He deployed his bow snakes on the backboard edge, and they never came forward ever. Like because he was afraid of what the Iron Blasters could do. And then they close the distance. They close the gap really well. They move 9 inches, and they still shoot. They don't bracket. You have 9 wounds apiece. Like the Army's going to be a handful if you don't. If you don't know what you're doing with it, it'll mess with you.
All right. Well, good luck to you, GCJ. I know you practice a lot for it. So, all right. Up next, we have Thomas. So, Thomas, what we got here? One of our Stormcast.
This is the next list.
Yeah, this is this actually we had a little practice tournament this weekend, and Thomas beat Cliff's list, which was what Gavin brought to LSO or LVO. So this really good. Now, so I mean, basically, it's a lot of what we've seen as the 15 Judicators. So a big 600 point block of Judicators, and then he has a 4 block of Stormdrake Guard. So really, that's over half his list just tied up into those two. He has Gardas, 3 units of Vindicators, and Lord Relictor. So, and I don't see the.
So the Gardas is just going to babysit the Judicators and give them a 5-up ward, and he's going to translocate them wherever he wants them to go.
Yeah.
And then he's going to have 15 Vindictors to screen out the Judicators or hold objectives, whatever.
He's got Scions too. Scions of the Storm he's running. So pretty good. A lot of damage output, a lot of mortals from what I can see. So
Gardas and the Judicators is a mediocre cover band for Marathi and the Bow Snakes. I know they brought the Stormdrake Guard as the opening act, but it's just not the same.
Yeah.
All right, so we've seen this. Good luck, Thomas. Can't wait to see how you do. And then, let's see, we got TJ with another Lumineth list. We got another tech list.
Lumineth? I thought he was bringing Soulblight.
Yeah, look, he's running Zytrek, so this is a little bit of a different list, but he's got 30 Wardens and a 10 block, and he's got a big old 30 block of Sentinels, Umbro Spell Portal, of course. And, he has Shackles, too, so he's really trying to tie down his opponent. He's got the 1-drop list, so just kind of, I think it's going to be that death ball of tech lists with the 30 Sentinels and, like, the Wardens just kind of covering while everything just sits there and prevents you from using CP or having fun, So
they don't, so this is Zytrek, so they don't get the double Aether Quartz, but they do get bonuses to cast, is that?
I think you can learn a second spell. So the Cathalar knows a second spell, and then I believe you can. I think you get a bonus to cast. So I think Techless is giving +1, the Cathalar is getting +1. So you're and then also the Wardens and stuff are getting, and the Sentinels I think are also getting bonuses.
So Zytrek is the first spell cast or unbound. Each turn is at +1 for each unit.
Yeah.
Obviously, Techless doesn't benefit from that because his Archmage rule says he doesn't. Mm-hmm. But the rest of those are single cast wizards who are only going to have 1 spell each and 1 unbind each. So they're all at +1. And as you mentioned, Aura of Selenar is another one. So that's basically everybody's casting at +2, and everybody knows an additional. Was it just the heroes know an additional?
I thought the Wardens and the Sentinels also get to learn a second one.
I think it's just heroes.
Yeah, it could be.
I do know that when I was playtesting Zytrek, playtesting is the wrong word. When I was playing around with testing a Zytrek list at the start of phase 3, AOS 3. I also bought a lore enhancement because I thought it was hilarious to have a spell book that I had to use in order to actually play my army effectively. But it also was overly complicated, not going to lie.
Which, I mean, realistically, though, it's okay because it's very obvious. You put Lambent Light on... Well, normally, so I see you put Speed of Hish on the Wardens. Usually I see Lambent Light on the Wardens, and the Sentinels have Speed of Hish, so it's interesting that he has that opposite. But most of the time they're just putting the mortal spell on themselves. So.
Yeah, you usually want Lambent Light further up on your screen so that they can actually...
You want it on the screen so they can pick something with an 18 and be closer. So I don't know if that was intentional, but...
Well, I think he was working on Soulblight, and I think he was originally planning on playing...
You might want to talk to Dan about swapping that out, because I think that's probably what you meant to do, but...
So I've actually seen people use Lambent Light on Sentinels as everything in front of me has died and now the Sentinels need to apply the spell. And what you can do is you can blow an Aether Quartz at the start of the phase to give an additional cast to units. And then the Sentinels are a 2-cast wizard, which means they apply both parts of their synergy. So it may be deliberate.
Yeah. So, I mean, either way, which is fine because, I mean, you have Teclis to kind of back you up on that. So he could realistically teleport himself and then cast Lambent Light if he really wants to. So
he's got or whip it through the spell portal. I've actually seen plenty of Lumineth players who use the spell portal instead of for the Storm Searing White Light. Yeah, they'll actually throw Lambent through it, and effectively at that point, Lambent is whatever unit of wardens is in front is actually the one that'll cast the spell portal. And that way it's 18 inches from them, and the back half goes to Teclis, and you can Lambent Light whatever.
I do like the Cathalar doing Spell Portal, because she has the +2 to cast, so it's very easily for her. And she can, I think, Aether Quartz can do a +1 on top of that. So
I think that's the bigger advantage for the doing it with the Cathalar instead, is that one, she's a hero, so she can benefit from the Shrine Luminor, so she can actually reroll
+3 to cast. Like, I've seen people fail it still somehow, but you know, the idea of you failing it with a reroll and +3 to cast is like insanely low.
Well, she's only got +2 from normal bonuses. She could blow her Aether Quartz for the +3.
Yep. So it's very unlikely to fail, and also have it unbound. So. That I think it's a lot easier for that. I think a lot of players started with Syar when Lumineth first came out, and then they've slowly moved to Zytrek, just because that bonus to cast is 100% worth it.
I think they moved to Zytrek because of changes in AOS 3. Because prior to the existence of spell lore enhancements, Zytrek was not as exciting. Prior to the command points working the way they do, Zytrek was also less exciting. Syar, you could spam all of those Aether Quartz, as many as you could spend command points on, and you could really stack those +1s to save. Once you could only get a net of +1 to save, Syar was not as exciting. So I think those are the real tempo shifts you saw to Zytrek.
I mean, also, one final thing is the point cost for it at 1965, I think, is that like sweet spot where is very unlikely he fights someone. I know we had a couple 19-25 pointers and stuff like that, but I think almost every matchup he's going to see, he's going to not only be affecting their command points and all their other nonsense that Lumineth can do, but also taking away that Triumph, which is just another gut punch that Lumineth will deal. So.
Though I think committing that hard into having a Triumph and then taking Indomitable in an army that already has a Cathalar and has excess command points from the Shrine, that seems a little odd to me. I feel like they're maybe bloodthirsty. Like, none of those Triumphs are great for Lumineth, because you really don't want to charge. You're hoping that they charge you. Bloodthirsty is okay.
Yep.
You're really doing damage predominantly from your mortal wounds, so Inspired isn't exactly that exciting. And you've got a Cathalar in your units that, well, I guess you've got the big block of Sentinels. The big block of Sentinels, I can actually understand that. Never mind, I forgot about the 30 of them. I was just looking at the 10 Wardens. But yeah, as general strategy, we're looking at something very similar to Terran's list. The difference here being that the 30 Sentinels actually have the pressure to force you to come and deal with it and play into the castle, whereas Terran's list had more elements to actually make the front of that castle a bigger wall, and Sevireth to be a lone agent that's an actual threat outside the castle.
So, we have our, speaking of godlike models, we have Zach Kennedy, his list with Fire Slayers, and I think 2 out of the 3 of us have fought this in the last week, so maybe I'll let you go ahead and talk about it, Brian.
Okay. Well, checking chat real quick. Hey, TJ, I thought you were playing Soulblight. We know why you changed. I see you're still in chat. I think it probably has to do with not wanting to paint 120 zombies, but
I mean, which is fair. I think it's a completely legitimate reason. But he did paint Lumineth, so
Zach and I have played. We had a really, really intense game with my Soulblight versus this, and they. So it's got all of the stuff that you want. It's got the 4+ rally on the Battlesmith and Obsidian Icon to protect him and a bubble of things from magic. And it can get really punchy with the 15 Hearthguard when it wants to. The 30 Volkites are just going to sit somewhere and block that whole board space off. With the Battlesmith somewhere near them to keep rallying that unit back on a 4+. I think I killed that unit twice in the game that we played. I just never could get it down to a man. So that's 60 wounds sitting there with a Battlesmith, not going anywhere. The Hearthguard have the once per game, if you charge them, they can fight first. I think it's once per game now. I'm pretty sure.
And also the Runefather, one thing that he's got basically a spellcaster, of course, so he can do he's got the prayers that he can do because he actually knows all the prayers, or 4 prayers or something like that. But also he can do spells, and so between all that, he can make that Runefather insanely tanky. And on top of that, it's got Coldheart Ancient, and it can do the once per game ability where it adds 1 to the attack's characteristic of everything within an aura of it.
His Magma Draw is insane. We're talking 30+, 40+ damage when it decides to go off, because it can fight twice. Once per game, it can pile in and fight for a second time. It's a monster. It's a legit monster, and he's been painting the shit out of it, and it looks really good too. So he's got a deep strike for his 15 Hearthguard with the Rune Smiter. It's there for that. It does have Curse, so that second turn, if you haven't cleared those Hearthguard, which you probably haven't cleared those Hearthguard, he's gonna be able to curse something and then go in with the Hearthguard.
Not only is he gonna curse you, he's also gonna use the relic, or I'm sorry, the rune, so that all the wound rolls do mortals as well. So the amount of mortals that he can do to you, I mean, I was fighting him today, and he was just one-shotting all my stuff with mortals, just regular Volkites, not even the Berserk, or not even the Hearthguard. So, I mean, it is disgusting what they.
It's a fantastic list with him at the helm, because it's an army that requires a pilot. It requires a Maverick 100%. Piloting this thing, and because there's
it's definitely
so many
skill-based.
holes and bubbles.
Because even when I fought him, there was a way he was setting up the models, and I think that made the difference on if I was fighting a normal person as far as their setup, where they just keep them all bunched together like a normal unit, it would have completely changed the way the game was played. So, but goes to show that the right pilot can really make the army.
It sounds like there's a lot of resource allocation in terms of using the right rune at the right time, as well as managing your interlocking defensive positioning bubbles.
Right. Absolutely. This is a good list. Like I said, he and I had one, and we had to actually stop on turn 3. If I made any mistake, it was I took a turn where I probably should have gave it to him and burned his objective, because I think he was up by basically the points on that objective that he was sitting on. And it was Savage Games, so we had traded each other's objectives. Each of us had our opponent's objective, and I mean, it wasn't decided by any means because I could have taken my home back to tie the game up, and then, but it was a tight one. It was a real tight, and we didn't finish it, but this is going to be a handful, and because it's so new, no one's going to know. I don't want to say no one, but most people aren't going to know what it does, and
easily top 5, top 3. Not only list, but player. I mean, it would not surprise me to bet my money on him being first place. It just depends on matchup, obviously, for Game 5.
You gotta go through me. You gotta go through me, Zach.
I think Eli has hit the nail on the head here. Zach's a machine. He's going to take a good list and turn it into a great list.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so last but not least, we have another Zachary. I don't know how to pronounce your last name, so I am Schlichting, I guess. Apologies, I'm sure I butchered that. So we have a Lumineth Ymetrica, so someone actually has a sense of humor and decided to play something other than Techless. And but he does have Eltharion, which is also pretty fun. Alvanor, Severith, lot of Stoneguard. Just a ton. Well, I guess they're reinforced. It doesn't show if they're reinforced, but I assume 240 is reinforced Stoneguard. So really good. Thank you for bringing this list, because although it's still Lumineth and they still you're ignoring Rend of a certain amount, and Alvanor is a -1 to hit aura. It's still a slow army that is just kind of meant to sit there and tank out. So it's like Nurgle, but not quite as good.
Yeah, they're durable, and they, as you mentioned, they ignore Rend 1. Ymetrica will allow them to ignore Rend 2 on all the Stone Temple instead.
Yep.
And it looks like the whole army is Alarith, with the exception of Severith and Eltharion. So that's most of the army is going to be ignoring Rend 1 too. I'm not sure where I stand on Alvanor versus the generic battle cattle. I've just gotten used to Mount Muji having to Rend, and while the Beef of Secrets having an AoE for -1 to hit is nice, having -1 on the thing you care about most is almost as good in my experience.
Yeah, I think that's true. Most of the time, you're only really wanting that -1 on one unit, and I don't know the points difference, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty significant for 395. So
I think they used to be real close, to the point where taking the generic was almost pointless. The one big thing you get on Alvanor is he is a hero, which means that he can use Finest Hour, and that's actually kind of a big deal.
It is.
Actually, his command ability is better. He gets D3 units get an extra attack instead of just 1. That's actually a big deal with since he's actually got the Stoneguard.
So 40 points difference. So yeah,
somewhere 10-15%ish. It's noteworthy. That's half a unit somewhere, or an endless spell. Actually, with a 1940 bit, it's a whole unit.
Yeah.
I mean, I like it. I feel like Severith is kind of interesting. I think if he did if he kept, well, because I think he could have done the same thing with Severith and the regular Wind Spirit as well. But then again, Eltharion. This is clearly a list of I like this shit.
I want to play the stuff that I want to play. Yeah.
So I think and I love the Stoneguard. I love the look of them. I've always liked them from the beginning, and I always liked the idea of a Wind and Stone Temple combination list, just because they help cover each other's weaknesses a little bit, but it never meshed together quite well enough. But this is good. I'm glad. I'm glad. I am happy to see a Lumineth list without Techless in it, and not 50 Sentinels. So, but that's it. I think that pretty much sums it up. I'm glad that there's a lot of variety this GT. A little bit of everything. No Slaanesh list though. That's a little sad, but next time. So, How about you, Brian? You got any final things to say before I go to bed?
No, I was just checking out. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an awesome tournament. I guess the chats come full circle. Zach had one Slambo 2 years ago with Fire Slayers, and he's bringing it back. Mm-hmm. So I just looking forward to seeing everybody again next weekend. Remember the charities that Dan's got going on. They year after year raised a lot of money for this foundation, and apparently there's an entire Bretonnian Feck army that's going to be raffled off. That's beautifully painted, from what I understand. I have never seen it personally, but I'm looking forward to seeing it.
Eli's asking for final predictions. Do you have a name top 3 that you think could?
Final predictions. Robisch, his list is and when I say my final prediction, I'm thinking like 5 people whose list is hard for me to beat. So Robisch is going to be an issue. I've already played the game with Zach. It's going to come down to a razor edge. Whoever, it's going to come down to some priority rolls. If we can, making the right choice in that decision and matchup. So Zach is on there for me. Gavin's playing, Doc. Not that Doc is super powered, but Gavin's always an option. Gavin's always going to be up there. I'm looking at player and list. So Matt, Zach, Gavin in my top. Chris Schelling, his giant list with that Crownspine is, I played it today. If you can't, like I said, if you can't check the damage, then he's going to tear you apart with it. So I think Chris has a real chance in this tournament. He's been like 4-1 in the last 3 with Giants. I think this is the packet where he could probably go 5-0.
So,
and
real quick, I did want to mention that in chat they were talking about James Sutherland is actually donating his Feck army. It looks like he's getting out of the hobby. We forgot to mention that yesterday, or if we did, I don't remember it. But he is donating his army as part of the charity raffle. So, pretty big deal. So, I'm sorry. Who was your last person? Me. Yeah.
I'm trying to think back through the list. Rutherford. I think it was Ryan Rutherford that had that BC army. Mm-hmm. That's one in my top that I think can do very well. So that's mine. Zach, Gavin, Rutherford, Chris Schelling, and Robisch. That's my people that I think are going to be in contention for winning this whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I think, of course, I'm betting on Zach and Gavin. I feel like that's a safe bet lately. But obviously, I think Gavin is taking a more, like an older approach to it by running his Doc army. So it would not surprise me that he easily places top 5, but just maybe doesn't score enough points to actually get as high as some of the other people. So I would say those two. I think either of you.
Oh yeah, I forgot about all of the Tough Crowd guys. James O'Brien is in there. I mean, there's a lot of people coming. This is actually going to be it's like 50-50 split on really competitive. Like there's going to be at the top end, the bottom end of this is going to be like people playing around with the stuff that they have. But the top end of this is going to be as competitive as any event that we've all played in. And James brought up James O'Brien, but I think Texas is going to hold it the fuck down, and we are going to pack their fucking bags for them, buy them a beer, and send them back to the airport. That's what I think.
How about you, Matt? What do you think?
Ooh, okay. So I think that out of Austin, I've got to give a nod to Randy and Eli. Yep. That Tempest Eye list, I cannot understate how much firepower and mobility it is, and that is a way to not only win a game, but win a game decisively, which is good for picking up tournament points. Eli has been he really was grinding the games with Starborn, and I think after Lone Star, he basically saw the light and said, I'm playing Coalesced, and he has not slowed down since then. Thunder Lizards are good. Eli's put the reps in. I got to give Eli the nod. Let's go ahead and say Gavin and Zach are always safe picks, right? And my counterpoint to your earlier statement is that I actually think the Marathi and the Bow Snakes build he has is well set up to win hard on the games that it wins. So I think that it actually racks up a pile of tournament points. The concern is that it's probably going to hit a list that is Soulblight, pretty much specifically a Soulblight list, because I think that those are the kinds of lists that it has problems with dealing with wounds. And Soulblight is likely to have at least a couple in the high spots. And Soulblight is likely to, it's common enough that it's a real concern. So I think that he probably places well and runs into a problem where he has scored too many tournament points and hits a list that he has a problem with. If he can pull that game off, he's good for smooth sailing. It's just going to be a question of when he hits a durable list
that can beat that tough matchup.
Things.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
If he dodges that matchup or makes it through that matchup, I think he's home free.
All right.
I got to give my last nod to Brian. I actually really like your Soulblight list. I like Legion of Night with a way to do null deploys and counter deploys. And while I think we went opposite directions on the do I want first turn versus do I need all the goodies for being multiple drops, I think you've justified it well by using Legion of Knights and Legion's abilities. Manfred, who is awesome. I think this is very clever, and I'd like to see what you can do with it.
Well, I appreciate it. I think it's going to be fun.
All right, I think that pretty much wraps it up. Is there anything you want to say, Brian, before you sign off for us?
No, well, I appreciate all you guys coming out and hanging out. It was a long one. I think we went pretty in-depth into a lot of these lists. Some of them,
almost 4 hours.
A little more in-depth than the others. So, yeah, I appreciate you guys hanging out, and look forward to seeing you guys next weekend.
Guys, thanks for having me. I think it would be remiss of me with Jeff in the chat to not mention that 2 weeks after this, we've got another tournament for anyone who didn't make it into Slambo and is looking to get another round in Texas. We've got the Smash and Bash GT. We've got the Harrower in chat is doing the lion's share of the work on getting this all set up and everything. I'm going to be helping where I can, but if you got questions, send it to me or him. We'll take care of it. I also got to give a shout out to the Weird Knobs channel, where we're actually starting to try to do a game streaming on Twitch. And other than that, guys, thanks a lot for having me. It's been a lot of fun. I appreciate it. It's
probably see you back in a few weeks.
Like about 20 minutes.
Yeah, we'll see you probably back in a few weeks for a doc book review.
Yeah, we do have a doc and Night Haunt book review that we're planning on doing, so more than happy to have you back for either one. So, all right.
Looking forward to it. Looking forward to playing some doc too. That's glad to see you.
Let's wrap it up. It's past my bedtime. So, all right. Goodbye, everybody.
Have a good
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good night.
All right, and we are done. Holy shit.